Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Finds Out His Reincarnation Truth and Left Rias Peerage Part 6. Chapter 24. Promoting. Exiting the teleportation circular, the young couple found themselves in the place that is very familiar to Issei in particular. It was the castle that Issei stopped Riser and started his quest for freedom, and the place that led him to his beautiful girlfriend that was beside him now. If Issei was completely honest to himself, he felt a bit of fear about what would happen when he meets some members of the Phoenix clan. Riser in particular, and their peerage members. He could only hope that they won't hold too many grudges towards him for what he did. Seeing his love a bit frightened, Lucy took his hand and softly put some pressure on it to let him know that she was here by his side and that everything will go alright. She knew why he was that way, and honestly, she would also feel the same way if she did what he did. But for now, she was here to support him in any way and shape, even if it means she would have to go through hell to ensure it. With a deep breath, Issei steadied himself, and with a smile and a light kiss on his lover's lips, he started heading towards the castle's gate, where some guards and candidates were waiting for time to enter it. As Lucy and he made their way towards them, some of the candidates saw them and started to whisper to themselves about them, which made Issei even more nervous, as he thought they were going to make some harsh remarks and maybe attack him, but to his surprise, it was very different. He that is Red Dragon Emperor, the one that beat Riser Phoenix. One blue-haired devil girl whispered to the girls beside her while having a blush on her face. He is super hot. Another girl whispered as she also had a blush on her face. Why, yeah, and look with who he is walking. She is beautiful, he is sure lucky to score her. A male with purple hair said, making the boys nod in agreement. Look at her body. She is like a goddess, another guy said as had hearts in his eyes, making Lucy giggle a bit. I know who she is, Lucy Lucifuge, the princess of lighting and ice, the third strongest ice user in Underworld. One girl said, finally realizing who they were talking about. And as she said Lucy's name, she started to shake in fear as she stepped back a few steps. WHATTT, some people yelled, making Lucy giggle a bit more, while Issei looked at her with a question mark on his head. Did I miss something, Lucy? Issei asked, getting her to shake her head. No, you know all that is to know about me, my master, Lucy said seductively, getting Issei to blush, while the people that heard her had their eyes go wide in shock. The girl that was said to cause death and destruction wherever she went was now a servant to the Red Dragon Emperor. It was something that made them start to admire Issei even more. If someone who was a devil for less than a few months managed to calm down and conquer her, then it looked like everything is possible. But the question is why a high-class devil of Lucy's caliber was with low-class like him. But they would ponder on that later. Excuse me, would it be alright to have your autograph? Asked the girl with golden hair as she runs up to Issei and Lucy with pencil and notebook, making them blink. With who? Issei asked, confused as he looked at the girl and had to admit that she was hot with an athletic body and big breasts. But both of you? I heard a lot of stories about Lucy, the princess of ice and lighting, and your battle with Riser Phoenix is now legendary Red Dragon Emperor. The golden-haired girl replied, getting Lucy to nod as she took a pen and a notebook in her hands and put her signature on it. Come on, love, you have a fan here. Why not make her happy and sign it? Lucy said, softly hugging him on the shoulder. Sure, why not? Here you go, he said as he signed it and gave it to her with a smile that made the golden-haired girl happy. Oh my, I didn't introduce myself, how rude of me. My name is Kisara, low-class devil, the bishop of the Amy household. Nice to meet you, princess and Sekiryuite. Kisara bowed to them, making them do the same. It is pleasure to meet you, Kisara. My name is Issei Haidu, the current Sekiryuite and low-class also, and this beauty next to me is Lucy Lucifuge, the high-class and heiress of Lucifuge clan. Issei introduced them as Lucy waved her hand to Kisara with a soft smile on her face. Oh, and what he didn't tell you is that he will soon be head of a said clan. Lucy added with a wink, making Issei go wide eyes, while Kisara just giggled at his expression. Well, I would be looking forward to seeing a proclamation of the new head of Lucifuge house. But sadly, I must get ready for the written part. It was a pleasure meeting you. Kisara said with a smile as she bowed and left, leaving the couple alone. Turning towards his lover, Issei could only formulate one question, and that was, what? Giggling a bit, Lucy answered him with a huge smile on her beautiful face. Well, as you said, love, I'm an heiress, and as such the one that I married to is going to become a head. Since my sister is Serzich's wife and my brother is dead, I'm the only left. As such I will not change my surname, but add yours to mine. Hearing her explanation, Issei just nodded after a minute of absorbing the information that she told him. He was a bit surprised when he heard that when he marries Lucy, he will become a head, but he felt that there was a catch to it. That is wow. So when we marry I will become the head of the house. That sounds cool, though I sense a but here. Issei told her, getting Lucy to nod with a smile on her face before it turned into a frown. Yes, my love, you got it right. For us to marry you, we'll need to get to at least high class, and we need to do a ritual to see if you are worthy of my hand. And before you say or do something, that was something my late father decided when it became clear that the war would start and there was a high chance for a lot of us to die. Lucy told him as Issei hugged her tightly, making her widen her eyes a bit. If getting to high class is what is needed to ensure that we will be really forever together, then that is even a bigger reason to advance today and hopefully soon to the upper echelon. Issei told her softly before kissing her on the lips. Ice, Lucy whispered as her eyes started to water a bit from his words. She couldn't describe what she was feeling. She was happy to be with him. But to hear that he would work hard to get to the point where he could get a chance to ask for her hand was something that made her happy beyond belief. I love you, Lucy. And for you, I will work my ass off to get to high class and to have you as my wife. Issei sincerely said to her, making her cry from happiness she felt. I love you to Issei more than anything in the world. Lucy told him with tears running down her cheeks as Issei just wiped them with his thumb while smiling at her, which made her heart skip a bit. Though she quickly regained her self-control and her face started to adore a mischief smile. Oh, and when you promote I will reward you with something, my love. But now you must go if you plan on getting on time for the test. Lucy said in a sultry voice, as she bit his ear lightly, making him go red and shiver in pleasure as he felt her hot breath on his neck and ear. Nodding, Issei untangles himself from Lucy and started walking towards the double door that last time he blew them up in order to enter. Finally entering a grand chamber, Issei felt nostalgia hit him as he clearly remembered what happened here not too long ago and his fight with Riser. Now that he thought about it, it was a good fight and he wouldn't mind having another one with him in the near future, as that would prove to be a good challenge to beat someone with regeneration on his own. But for now, he needed to focus on his test and promotion in order to get himself free. Not 10 minutes later, the grand chamber was filled with contestants. When the last one entered, the doors of the chamber closed and the lights dimmed down with only light near a small balcony. From there, the magic circle appeared with a few people arriving. All of them dressed formally, though what surprised Issei was two people in particular. One of the said two was none other than Riser Phoenix, in his still overconfident posture and a smug grin on his face, which made Ice grin, as he wouldn't mind wiping it out again. The other was Ravel Phoenix in her pink dress that she wore during the wedding. She even had an aura of true noblewoman that Ice found a bit attractive, as Ravel sure looked and acted like a mature woman. However, she did have her moments where Issei wasn't sure if Riser overconfidence rubbed on Ravel. Though the person that took the stage left Issei in bewilderment. The person looked like Ravel with her golden hair tied in a ponytail, only more mature, and with a body that easily rivaled Venelana Gremory, who was in Issei's book very attractive woman. Though where Ravel had baby blue eyes, this woman on the center stage had crystal clear blue eyes that gave off the feeling like they were going to read your very soul and heart and exploit them. The woman was wearing a beautiful crimson dress with white accessories. Welcome everyone to this middle class promotion exam. I, Sierra Phoenix, the matriarch of Phoenix House, welcome you and to wish you all good luck in the coming test. I presume you were all informed on how the test is going to be. But if you forgot, here is the rundown on it. First, all of you will take the written exam and you will be given 2 hours to complete. Next, you will all have an hour of rest before you will go to martial exam, where your fighting skills will be measured and tested. For your opponents, you will face other candidates, and to make it fair, your opponents will be randomly selected. Sierra explained it to the group of low-class devils in a motherly tone to ease their stress and nerves. Before we begin with the test, I would also like to point out that those fine men and women behind me will be there to make sure that there is no cheating or funny business during this exam. I hope that you've all studied and trained hard. The test will commence in 10 minutes. Please enter the room to your left, there we will have our exam. Sierra finished her speech before retreating into the next chamber. As Issei and others entered the chamber that Sierra told them, he found it to be like a regular human schoolroom with a lot of desks and seats with pieces of paper on them with a pen. Taking one of the free seats, Issei waited until he was given further instructions about what to do next, as he was unsure what to do next. Luckily for him, the wait wasn't long as the Phoenix family and the people that were with them entered the room, getting the loud crowd to calm down before a man and a woman stepped forward, explaining what to do next. As it was said by Lady Phoenix, you will have 2 hours to finish your test. We will patrol the room for any type of cheating or unfair advantages that might occur. You may now take your pen and start answering the questions. I repeat, you have 2 hours to finish your exam. Best of luck and begin. The man spoke as all of the candidates took their pens and started answering the questions. After 2 agonizing hours, Issei managed to finish his questions. He could have done it quicker, but both Elsha and Drake reminded him to take his time and reread the questions. Just so that he answers correctly. When Issei asked them for help during the test, both the dragon and princess refused to help him, stating that it would be cheating if they answer the questions for him. However, they did point out when he got the questions wrong so that he can correct the answer. It was now the break period for the candidates that finished the first part of the test before going to combat part. As Issei was laying down on the grass near fountain, he noticed that some people were coming in his direction. Lifting his head, Issei was surprised to see that Ravel and Riser were making their way towards him, with the former holding something in her hands. Heading into the seating position, Issei greeted them when they were close to him. "Oh, what do we have here? Fried chicken and his beautiful little sis. What can I do for you guys?" Issei spoke with a smirk on his face, as Riser's face burned red with anger, while Ravel was red with embarrassment. Why you Riser wanted to say more, but Ravel stopped him as she stood in front of Issei, prompting him to raise his eyebrow, making her to give even bigger blush on her face. Sekiruite, this is for you, I hope you like it," Ravel stuttered as she gave Issei a closed box that looked like bento. Thank you Ravel, but you don't need to call me Sekiruite. Issei ice is fine, that goes to you to fried chicken," Issei said to her softly before addressing her brother with a smug look on his face. Hearing what Issei said made Ravel wide her eyes before she nodded slowly with a blush and a smile on her face. She tested his name softly and quietly so that both males don't hear her. "Fine, Riser will call you Issei if you stop calling Riser that stupid name." Riser answered Issei, making him chuckle. "Do I need to beat you again so that you lose that third-person speech?" Issei questioned with a raised eyebrow again as he summoned his gear, making Riser flinch a bit as he still had nightmares about his defeat from the Red Dragon. "As if you could do that," Riser tried to sound confident. But to both Issei and Ravel, they could clearly see and hear that his confidence in front of Issei was almost non-existent, though they both ignored it. Looking at the box that Ravel gave him, Issei opened it to see what was inside of it, and to his surprise, it was a cake that from the look of it and smell must be delicious. Seeing that Ravel was looking at him, she was waiting to hear his thoughts about her present and most likely about the taste. Deciding to put her worries to rest, Issei took the small cake that she made and took a bit of it. As soon as he tasted it, his eyes went wide as he only tasted good food from two more people, his mother and Lucy. But, it looked like Ravel was genius in this department also, as he felt the cake melt in his mouth with all sweet flavors, filling his taste bumps with pleasure. "Ravel, this is wow. I didn't know you can cook, this is fantastic." He complimented her, making the poor girl have an atomic blush. Thank you Ice." She barely managed to say as Issei just patted her head, prompting steam to go out of her ears, making Issei chuckle, as he remembered that Lucy also has the same reaction as Ravel when it comes to patting head. "You're welcome Ravel, and thanks for this delicious food," Issei said as he looked at his phone, seeing that his hour break was almost over and the next part of his test was about to take place. "Well, looks like my break is over. See you later guys." With that said, Issei completely stood up and started to head to the castle, only to stop when Ravel called him. "Issei, would you mind having some tea and cake with me sometime in the near future?" She shyly asked him while blushing, prompting him to look at her before he smiled and nodded his head, making her blush even more while smiling from ear to ear. "Sure, if you treat me to this delicious food, I'm more than happy. But now sadly I must get going. Bye," he said as he turned around and was about to walk away but stooped again as Riser this time called him. "Issei, our mother would like to talk to you after the exam. When you finish your fight, do come here again and someone will come to take you to her," Riser explained, prompting Issei to look at him with a raised eyebrow. "Why would she want to talk to me?" he questioned. "Don't know, she asked us to give you her message and she said that she hopes that she could have a chance to talk to you," Riser replied, getting Issei to surge. "Fine, I will do it." With this answer, Issei finally left for his combat trail, leaving the brother-sister duo to go back to their own devices. As Issei entered the great chamber again, he was in his thought about what Lucy said to him. It was something he looked forward to doing though, knowing how devils operated, it was definitely something loony that would await him when he decided to take her as a wife. Though before he could ponder about it more, Lady Phoenix, or should he say, Sierra, entered the room again, followed by same men and women that were with her before. "First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for doing the first exam without even a single unfair or unworthy thing. You have my gratitude. Now on to the second part of this exam. The combat will be done on the open field just behind the castle, and like I told you earlier, the combatants for this will be randomly selected to give fairness to all of you. Now, don't you all worry, even if you lose the battle, give it your best. You can still pass of course if your written part is good to get to middle class. It is known that nobody is good in everything, some of you may excel in combat while some may in the brain. Now if you all follow me to the next field." With that said, all of them exited the castle and went to the battlefield. The winner of the battle is Theater, candidate 557. The referee announced as the small green-haired devil bowed to his opponent and to the older devils and withdraw from the field. Next fight is between Issei Haidu of the Grimmery household and Minamoto Samada of the Amy household. Both combatants are pawn pieces, as such you are allowed to promote into the piece you want. The referee announced again as both Issei and his opponent came out on the field. Looking at his opponent, Issei could see that male in front of him looked a bit similar to him. Minamoto was a bit taller and skinnier than him, and where Issei had brown hair and brown eyes, he had black hair with black eyes, giving an eerily look that made Issei sweat a bit. Both of them quickly took their battle stances and waited for other to make the move while they awaited the announcement to begin this battle. Issei was told by Raven that he was forbidden from using his gear to boost up before the fight, as that would give a very large disadvantage to others. So Issei did what he was told and didn't summon his gear at all the whole wait for his battle. "Partner, are you going to use Balance Breaker?" Drake asked as he was also waiting for the start of the battle so he can help his partner. "Honestly Drake, how can Issei know if he is going to use it?" "Issei dear, I suggest you hold off as much as you can on that until you know what you are up against. For all we know, he could be someone that can use your power against you. First go with your boost, then if necessary go into Balance Breaker," Elsha said as she scolded Drake for his battle hungriness. While he was good and kind, when a fight was at hand, he can be a bit too much to handle. "Drake my pal, as much as what you said is preferable. I will go with what Elsha said since it's more logical. Though if need be, I will use it," Issei answered his partner, making the dragon sigh. "Fine, I expect for you to kick his sorry ass," Drake said. "Don't worry, I will." Begin. As soon as Issei finished his little talk with his comrades, the announcement was made as both Issei and Minamoto shouted their pieces. "Promotion Queen Bishop, so you are a magic user?" Issei asked as he brought up his gauntlet and Drake, starting the boost immediately. "Yes, I am. And I see I had an honor of facing the red dragon I hear stories about. I look forward to our duel. I do hope you don't disappoint me," Minamoto answered in a cold voice with a smile that creeped the hell out of Issei. "Enough chit-chat," Issei yelled as he lunged at his opponent with full speed. Minamoto for his part just stood calmly in his place, waiting for Issei to come. As soon as Issei was close to his liking, Minamoto disappeared from sight, prompting Issei to stop and look for his opponent, which turned to be a bad mistake as he was showered by spells of all kind, making him dodge and block. "Interesting, looks like you are sturdier than expected. This will be better than I hoped," Minamoto said, his voice coming all around Issei, making it hard for him to detect him. "Why, you just because you got first blood on me don't mean I'm out," Issei shouted as he started to power up even more, making some lower class devils present to start shiver from his power. "Is that so? I'm still waiting for your attack, little emperor," Minamoto taunted as he again unleashed a volley of spells at Issei, who this time created a wall of power around him with his aura, making the shots to explode on contact. "Don't count me out just yet. I still have lots to go. And let's see you handle this move," Issei responded to his taunt with his own, as he took a big breath in him before unleashing his fire attack that caused the judges to put up barriers to prevent the fire going towards the other combatants. Seeing that his attack the whole place on fire, Issei waited for something to happen. He didn't have a long wait as he heard the sound of water evaporating and steam coming out. Smirking, Issei collected his energy into his signature dragon shot before unleashing it at Minamoto, who barely had a chance to put up his barrier up to protect himself. "Not so tough when detected, aren't you?" Issei asked arrogantly as he knew that this was his moment to unleash hell on this man. "That may be, but I still have range superiority and a lot of more of spells to fight back," the black-haired bishop answered as he again created a few circles and fired his magic at Issei, who thought it was a good time to unleash his trump card and win this now. "Not gonna happen this time," Issei yelled as his booster gear shined brightly with Drake's voice roaring with power. "Welsh Dragon, Balance Breaker, time to crank up the firepower," Issei roared as his body was engulfed in his aura before it exploded, countering Minamoto's attack like it was nothing. As the aura disappeared, in place where Issei was standing, now stood a red armored plated man with his tail and wings out, giving a terrifying look toward others who never seen it, and to those who did could only shiver in fear as they remembered the power that armor gave to its user. Issei, feeling that something popped out of his back, gave a side look towards it and was in shock as he saw that he now had his dragon wings. "Eyes, I have dragon wings. How? I thought I need to wait a few more months." "That is easy, dear, the more you got stronger the faster your wings grow. In your fight with Kakabiel, you hit that threshold and your wings have grown. Though since after your battle you didn't use your balance breaker you didn't know," Elsha answered him, making Issei nod mentally. With his little conversation over, Issei lifted off into the airs and started to generate a huge amount of power into his hands, making younger and older devils scared a bit, while Phoenix family looked in interest. What will the young Sekiruite do next? With only Riser shiver a bit from the power Issei emitted. Twin Dragon Shot, full power destruction. Issei and Drake roared together as Issei fired of his powerful twin prone attack, making Minamoto put up the strongest barriers he could master. As the shots were sent towards Minamoto, Issei used that chance to quickly get behind him just as his attack hit his opponent's barriers. With his opponent concentrating on the barriers, Issei sent a powerful kick into his gut, making Minamoto lose his concentration on the barrier, weakening them as the shots passed through them, hitting him and thus ending the battle. The winner of the battle is Issei Haidu, candidate 559. The referee announced as Issei patted his opponent on the back and bowed towards the referee and started making his way towards the garden. Leaving a lot of people to stare at his figure as he was walking away from them. He is strong and interesting. I hope I will meet you again, Sekiryuite. One girl with white hair thought as she was still looking in Issei's direction with a small smile on her face. It took a few more hours for the exam to finish completely and now Issei was in the chamber with Lady Phoenix and Ravel. While the Lady Phoenix had a calm and peaceful face, Ravel's face was red as Issei's balance breaker. What do I owe a pleasure of meeting you, Lady Phoenix? Issei respectively asked, making the matriarch of the Phoenix household to smile at him. First, you don't need to call me that, you can call me Sierra. Secondly, I want to congratulate you on your promotion to middle class. Before you say something, I will let you know that you did very good in your written part and your combat has inspired a lot of the low class. Those who fought after you had went full power. Because of you, we saw a lot of potential and even discovered some hidden powers in others. I thank you for that and your king should receive your promotion sheet tomorrow morning, but I thought it would be nice to tell you this now. Sierra said, making Issei go wide eyes as he couldn't help but smile before loudly shouted in happiness, making Sierra smile at his cheerfulness. Yes, but wait, I thought you guys would hate me for what I did at the wedding party. Issei said after his yell of happiness was over. Oh my, you don't need to worry about that, well we are not happy for the missed marriage, we are not going to blame you wholly on it. In fact, we are a bit happy that you put Riser in his place as he is now less, how could I put it in your human terms, yes, less of a jerk towards those of lower classes. In fact, he is behaving nicely towards others. Sierra explained, making Issei sigh in relief. That is good to hear, really. Issei said, feeling a bit at ease. Ice, there is also one more thing that my mother called you here for. Ravel shyly said, her face going even redder. Issei hummed, making Sierra giggle a bit. Why yes, you see, after that battle with Riser, I traded my bishop piece with him for Ravel, so in essence, Ravel is now free. What I want to say is that when you hit the high class, I would gladly trade her with you, as I have a feeling that you will be a good influence to her and Lucy Lucifuge could help her learn a lot. Yes, I saw Lucy and know her very well and I'm glad that she is now back to her former self. Sierra told him, making his eyes go wide before he nodded his head. You sure that is a good idea to have Ravel in my peerage? I would be glad to have her with me, but I think it's better for her to choose if she wants to have me as her master. Then forcing her to accept it. Issei said, making Ravel go wide eyes at his declaration. Well, Sierra again just giggled. I see that you respect what other people think and feel. I'm sure that Ravel will be very happy to join you. And I have a small gift for you, Sekiri. Sierra tried to finish it, but Issei stopped her. I see that you respect what other people think and feel. I'm sure that Ravel will be very happy to join you. And I have a small gift for you, Sekiri. Sierra tried to finish it, but Issei stopped her. Please just call me Issei or Ice, I'm not one for titles. Issei told her, getting her to nod. Very well, Issei, like I said, I have a gift for you, think of it as my husband's and mine way of saying that all is well between the House of Phoenix and Haidu. With that said, Sierra nodded towards Raven, who quickly stood up and left the room before returning with a small package, giving it to Issei. Here, Ice, this is for you. Ravel shyly told Issei, who smiled and patted Ravel on the head, prompting her to have atomic blush and steam coming from her ears at his gesture. Thank you very much. Issei said, getting Ravel to nod. You can open it if you like. Ravel quickly said, getting Issei to nod. Opening the package, Issei was left speechless. In his hand he was holding 3 bottles of Phoenix Tears that, from what Lucy told him, was very rare and expensive. Quickly looking towards Sierra, Issei tried to say something, but she beat him to it. Before you say anything, know this. While they are rare and expensive, we do have a storage of them for emergency, and 3 bottles of them are not going to harm us or the market, so take them. They will be more at use with you than sitting here. She told him, getting Issei to just nod his head before smiling. I have no words to describe what I feel. Thank you very much for this. If you need my help, I will gladly help you all. But sadly, I must return home, I wish you farewell. Issei said as he stood up and bowed to Sierra before Ravel escorted him towards the exit, where he called Lucy to come for him. It didn't take long for Lucy to appear near Issei and Ravel, who were wait for her. Seeing her love, Lucy smiled, gently hugging him tightly. How did it go, dear? Lucy asked while releasing him a bit to look at him for any injuries. It went perfect, I will tell you more later. I would like you to meet the youngest daughter of the House of Phoenix. Ravel Phoenix, Issei told her before introducing Lucy to Ravel, who was a bit frightened by the girl in front of her. Lucy was well known after all in the underworld and was considered a powerhouse in her own right, with enough power to fight almost anyone. So being frightened by her was something that was considered normal. Though to Ravel's shock and relief, Lucy treated her kindly and with respect. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ravel. I'm Lucy Lucifuge, the heiress of the House of Lucifuge and Issei's girlfriend. I hope we get along. Lucy said with a bow towards the younger girl. The pleasure is all mine, Lucy, I heard a lot of stories about you. Ravel frightfully said. Ravel, don't worry. Lucy will not hurt you, what you heard about her was war stories that are normal to be a bit dark, she is a really nice person, but she still has her let's say bad side to those she doesn't like. Issei said, calming Ravel a bit. True, I do not like that red-haired bitch, but I will refrain from harming her, well that is until raiding game with her. Hehehe, Lucy said with a scary laughter, making both Issei and Ravel to take a few steps back from the heiress. Lucy, I think it's best we go home, I'm a bit tired and hungry. See you later, Ravel. Issei quickly said while taking Lucy's hand, bringing her back from her malice thought about hurting Rias. Yes, my king. Till next time, Ravel, do stop by for some tea when you can. With that said, Lucy teleported Issei and her to his house. I will need to start training if I wish to become one that will be worthy of being in Issei's peerage. Ravel thought to herself, seeing Lucy calling Issei her king and knowing the meaning behind those words. Chapter 25. Celebration. Returning to his house with Lucy, Issei decided to tell her the great news that he knows that would make her happy. Lucy, I have something to tell you that will surely make you happy. Issei said, prompting Lucy to look at him with interest in her eyes. You do, love? Yes, it's related to my promotion exam and Ravel, why don't we sit down and have something to drink before I tell you? Issei told her, getting a nod from her as she went into the kitchen and after a minute or two returned with some drinks and snacks. Now as I said, there are two news, which would you like to hear? One is related to promotion or other to Ravel? Issei asked softly, making Lucy put her hand on her chin before answering him. Let's go with a promotion that is much more important, okay love? Lucy said, getting Issei to nod. Well, the good news is that I got promoted to middle class, Issei stated with a huge grin on his face, making Lucy looked at him with wide eyes before she had a huge smile on her face as she jumped on him and started kissing him all over his face. Yes, you are now middle class, but wait, how do you know that? You would get scores tomorrow. Lucy said in ecstatic before she remembered that for the scores would be officially the day later. Well, Lady Phoenix told me and I don't see the reason not to trust her. Though that brings Ravel's news. Issei explained as he got his breath under control from all the kisses Lucy planted on him. And that is my love? She asked while taking a seat in his lap, prompting Issei to blush from her soft ass. Well, Lady Phoenix told me that when I get to high class, she would trade Ravel to me. Since it seems like Ravel would want to be in my peerage, though I did tell that is up to Ravel. I don't see a problem in having her with me. She also stated it would be good for Ravel to have both you and me with her, plus is damn good cook also. Oh yeah, before I forget, I got a present from Phoenix family. Issei told her as Lucy thought about it for a moment. It did look like the Phoenix clan were trying to get Issei under their wing, but since Issei did state that he will marry her and with that become head of Lucifuge house. It meant that both houses would benefit as an alliance between the two, that would be good news. Okay, and what was the present? Lucy said after thinking a bit about Ravel's coming into her love's peerage. You're okay with that? Issei asked her in shock that Lucy didn't blow up the casket. Yes, my king and future husband, as your future queen and wife, I'm okay for many reasons, my love. First, she may have developed a crush on you after seeing your power and during that fight against her brother. I also watched it and I was very impressed at what I saw that day. If she wants to get into your peerage, it may be because of that. Second, the alliance between the House of Phoenix and Lucifuge will increase both of our strength and prestige, and so forth, Lucy explained to Issei, getting a nod from the teen. Okay, when you put it that way I can't argue. Well, the present is 3 bottles of Phoenix tears. And Lady Phoenix said that they had plenty in storage and that it would be good for me to have. Issei told her as he brought the box of them to Lucy, who took it and sniffed the contents to make sure it was the real deal or fake. Yeah, they are real, though I'm surprised that they gave you this, did they say it specifically why? Lucy questioned as she put the tears on the table. I think it was like they will be more useful to me, and they had full storage of it, plus it was like a thank you gift for beating some sense into Riser. Issei answered her as she nodded her head and started to display a sly smirk on her face that made Issei a bit unnerving. As Lucy leaned closer to Issei with her mouth near his ear, her hot breath had sent shivers down Issei's spine. Honey, since it's getting late, why don't you go take a bath while I prepare something to eat? Then, we could have a little fun before sleep, Lucy sluttery whisper as she licked and bit his ear lightly, making him blush and shiver from pleasure. Nodding his head, Issei rushed into the bathroom while Lucy just giggled and took her phone out, making a quick call that would make her little devious plan even more thrilling for her. Seeing that the person she talked to agreed to her request, Lucy started to use her magic to transform the living room into the party room while Issei was taking his bath. It didn't take long for the called person to arrive, as was evident by the ringing front bell that made Lucy smirk slightly. Opening the door, she was met with Cassie, Chelsea and the Kendo duo, all having smiles on their faces and entering the living room bringing snacks and drinks for a little surprise party for Issei's promotion. As the girls chat with each other and talk about some girl stuff, Issei finished his shower and put on some casual clothes. Soon, he went back to the living room, hopefully to enjoy some alone time with Lucy. However, when he entered the room, he was in for it as he saw all the girls in the living room with a lot of party stuff. Seeing him enter, Chelsea and Murayama bolted at him before hugging him tightly and kissing his cheeks, making him blush a bit from the affection. Though in shock, Cadis grabbed his collar and pulled him closer to her before giving him a kiss on the lips. But what shocked Hai was Cassie coming to Issei and hugging him tightly. What's with them? And what is with all the kisses and hugs? Issei thought as he was surprised by their behavior, not that he minded, he was enjoying it a lot. So Ice darling, how did the promotion go? We heard that you passed, so that means you are middle class, right? Chelsea asked, getting Ice to nod before his eyes widened. His brain registered what Chelsea said, his head spun towards Lucy who whistled innocently. Oh, she is going to pay for this tonight, Issei thought as he adored a sweet smile, making Lucy sweat a bit as she saw it. Yes dear, it went well. Well, the writing test was done quickly, even though Elsha and Drake didn't want to help directly, they did help a bit in it. Issei answered, and as if on cue, a booster gear appeared on Issei's arm and started to shine brightly, making all of them cover their eyes for a moment. Uncovering their eyes, they were met with Elsha, who was in her blood-red dress with a tiara of sorts on her head, as her long blonde hair was freely waving behind her. Seeing her, Lucy and the girls smiled as Elsha hugged Issei, who was still not used on her appearing out of thin air like that, though unlike the last time, she was now in her flesh body form. As she hugged him, she saw that she managed to get a reaction from Issei, as his face was bright red like her dress. Oh Ice darling, I thought you would be happy to see little old me. Elsha said in a fake hurt voice, while her eyes were shining with mischief as she increased a grip on his hand, putting it between her bust, making him even redder. I'm very happy you are here Elsha, but I still didn't got used to you popping out from thin air, Issei stuttered, making her giggle a bit as she kissed his cheek lightly, making him wide eyes as he for the first time felt her lips. Well, girls. What are we waiting for? Let's party, Elsha shouted while hugging Issei tightly, making the girls cheer in agreement. As Issei's promotion party was in full swing, there came a hell lot of laughing, playing games and drinking, not alcohol sadly. A lot of hugs and kisses that Issei enjoyed a lot, and some funny stories that Elsha told, remembering the time when she was alive with Drake, also chipping in telling some stories that made everyone have a good laugh. As the party ended, the girls left for their homes, and what was left were Issei, Lucy and Elsha. They had, from what Elsha told the couple, an hour or so before she needed to return to the gear as her time was running out. While Lucy collected all the dishes, Issei and Elsha collected all that was for the trash can, cleaning the house. Hoping that no one could tell that the party was there only an hour ago. With the living room clean, all three of them took a seat on the couches, with Elsha saying that she had something to tell Issei, something important that would be good for him to know while she was out like this. Dear, I know that we could talk to each other in your mind, but since I came out for the party, I will tell you this knowledge, and with Lucy here, it would be good to hear her opinion on this. Elsha said seriously, making the couple nod as Elsha took a big breath. What I want to tell you is what is necessary for you, Issei, to revive me. It won't be as simple as you may think, for you see my soul is split into two parts. While the main is in booster gear, there is also a weapon that I once held into battle. That weapon was made for me specifically, that weapon also holds a part of my soul, since it was like a failsafe system. So, if I was slain or the weapon was stolen, it won't give anyone power to do anything, and it will behave like a regular weapon without any powers. With a combination of booster gear and it, I could rival almost any deity. Also, there is no small task of convincing both Perrin and Odin to give you the information of where the weapon is, since while Odin is a pervert and Perrin is a calculated man, as you would say. They may act weird, but they respect power and will most likely give you some task to complete for the info about it. Elsha said, making Lucy nod her head as Issei was still in thought. Elsha, from what I could read of what you said, it looks like that the tasks you spoke of will surely require Issei to go through a lot of dangerous things. So, you want me to go with him to make sure that the chances are higher? Lucy said, making Elsha nod. That is right. I'm sure that Odin won't make anything too much, but for Perrin, I'm not sure he has some dangerous tasks for those that want something from him. Elsha spoke. It looks like I will need to go through another Kakabiel to revive Elsha. Well, I think it's worth it, she did train me and gave me her holy powers to beat Riser. Issei thought before telling Elsha his decision. Elsha, I will help you, I did promise you that I will bring you back, and I intend to hold my word. Though, one question. Issei told her with passion, making Elsha smile brightly before she nodded for Ice to continue. Will you leaving the gear affect you too much? Since I don't know how you will go without the gear that you used your whole life. Issei questioned, making Elsha giggle a bit. Oh, Ice, you little boy, you really thought I wouldn't know how to handle myself without the gear. Well, to ease your worries or doubts, I was trained by the best Valkyries and Royal Perrin's guards in magic and combat, so if the situation where I couldn't use my gear arise, I wouldn't be a sitting duck. Elsha answered him sweetly while Lucy just smiled. Wow, so that means you know how to handle every situation, right? Issei said, making her nod her head as her body started to turn slightly to her ghost form. Well, it looks like my time is slowly ending. If you want to start your search, I suggest you go to Norse faction first, before going to the Slavic. That way, you might be able to get Odin or some other gods of the Norse to give you the pointers on what to expect from the Slavs, since they are the warrior race. You would better be careful of what you speak, Ice dear, one wrong word or expression could cost you your life. Even I had to keep quiet when the situation or the mood of the gods were not that good. Well, good luck, and I will help you in any way I can. Elsha said as she glowed for a moment before disappearing, making Issei and Lucy look at each other before Issei smirked, making her shiver a bit. Now love, let's get to that thing you wanted, Issei whispered into her ear, softly making her shiver from pleasure. Love was all that Lucy spoke before she yelped. Issei lifted her bride's style and started heading towards their bedroom with the intent to make Lucy pay for that little stunt she pulled with the party. As soon as they entered the room, Issei threw Lucy on the bed. Before she could get up, Issei pinned her to the bed with his body, making her unable to move. Soon, her face began to get redder by the second. Seeing her face getting redder, even to the point that it could resemble his balance breaker, Issei leaned his head towards hers, making it so that his mouth was close to her ear. His breath hit her neck, making her hot from it alone. Now my beautiful future wife and queen, what should I do to you? Should I take you here and now, or should I prolong it a bit more before doing it? Issei spoke seductively while biting her ear lightly and neck, making her near the breaking point. Love, husband, my king and master, take me now please, I beg of you, Lucy answered between moans as Issei continued to lightly bite her ear and neck while adding a few licks here and there to make her on the edge even more. Mo, I will take you my dear, Issei said as he kissed her on the lips hard, making Lucy melt in it as they started to kiss passionately while Issei started to explore her body. As they continued to kiss, Issei's both hands slipped under her clothes while one headed north, other headed south to the untouched regions of her body. As the northern hand reached her breast, Issei found that she wasn't wearing a bra. That made his work easier as he softly and gently grabbed one of her breasts, making her moan into the kiss. Playing with her breast, Issei got to experience her firm, yet soft and elastic skin, with her nipple as hard as a rock that his fingers softly poked and traced over, making her moan even more. But the real pleasure that Lucy felt was when Issei's southern hand reached her lower regions as his hand softly passed over her vagina. She let loose a huge moan, making Issei almost go over the edge as he felt her getting all wet and ready. Deciding to at least give her something, Issei slipped a finger inside of it. And at that moment, Lucy's eyes widened as she felt his finger inside of her. Grabbing his head with both of her hands that were free, Lucy started to aggressively kiss Issei with so much fire and passion that she could muster. After all, she waited this long for a chance to become his in body and soul. She would be damned if she let this chance slip. Interrupted once it was okay, twice it was annoying, but 3 times that is asking for death. And she would deliver it to anyone that interrupt this time. This was their moment and nothing would stop it. As Lucy was holding his head firm, Issei continued to pleasure her lower region while playing with her breasts that he was enjoying a lot, and the teasing he was giving Lucy made it all the sweeter to him. Issei, stop teasing me, I need you in me now, Lucy barely spoke as Issei's fingers were doing a wonderful job of making her speak between moans as they separated their lips from each other so that they could breathe desperately needed air. What was it that you said, my love? Issei huskily asked her while he was busy pumping her region with his fingers, even quicker, making her moan loudly as her hand slipped to his back and her nails gripped his back tightly. Stop teasing me, damn it, Lucy barely managed to say it as she was near her limit. Her face was all red from the pleasure and horniness that she held in herself. Hearing her, Issei smirked grew as he was enjoying teasing her. He just couldn't wait for what was about to become. If he was honest with himself, he was as horny and ready to buck her senselessly, but he wanted her to say those words before they could really get to it. What did you say, my queen? I didn't quite get that. Issei asked as he leaned again, closing onto her face before he lightly bit her ear, making her flip him over, using her strength and his unpreparedness to her advantage. Oh, you will feel and see it, my king, Lucy seductively told him as she quickly took her top of relieving her perfectly hourglass-shaped upper body. That made Issei only stare at her while she leaned down to let his torso feel hers. With her breast pressing hard against his chest, Issei began to have a huge nosebleed. Smirking at him, Lucy started to move her hips as her extremely hot and wet entrance grit against his rock-hard member, making her moan while Issei grunt in pleasure, though he was soon about to experience a real heavenly sensation. Lemon. As Lucy decided that the foreplay was enough, she slowly started to kiss Issei all over, from the top of his head down to his stomach near his pants. Seeing that her path was blocked, Lucy just ripped the obstacle apart before her face was hit with a fleshy object, the same one that she was desperately in need of. Though when she saw it, she had a waterfall mouth, as the object of her desire was huge. It was easily 23 centimeters 9 inches long and was very thick, but now was the time to put Issei in his place. Grabbing his hick, she smirked and licked her lips in hunger, started to kiss it, making Issei shiver in delight. Deciding to pleasure him a bit, Lucy started to pump his rod while giving a lick every so often, making Issei grunt in pleasure. Hearing the pleasured grunts, Lucy smirks as she put the tip of his hick into her mouth, massaging his rod with her tongue, before slowly lowering her head. Taking more of him into her mouth has sent waves of pleasure through his system as she sucked him off. "So, my love, you ready to claim me?" Lucy stated with a sultry voice as she released his hick from her mouth but still gave him a few more licks, making him moan a bit before he started to smirk darkly. He flipped her onto her back while he hovered over her, with his hick hanging around her wet-drenched hussy. Deciding to tease her a little bit more, he rubbed his length along her entrance to get it nice and wet. But this was not a good move, cause Lucy started to growl a bit. Stop teasing me already, Lucy told him, as Issei looked into her pleading eyes. "Tell me if it's too much to bear and I will stop immediately." Issei softly and warmly said to Lucy as she felt her heart once again warm up to him. This is another reason why she loved him so much. No matter what they were doing, her safety was always number one in his book, even at the cost to him. But this time she wanted it, and no matter how painful it is, she will endure it. "DP, please my love, do it," Lucy whispered to Issei, who nodded slightly before gently pushing his way into her, getting pained grunts as Issei felt that he came to her barrier. Looking into her eyes, he saw the unwavering love she had for him. With a soft nod, Lucy steadied herself as Issei broke her barrier, making her gasp. She hugged him tightly with her nails deep into his skin, making him grunt softly from the pain. But he didn't let it show. Seeing the painful look and tears on her face, Issei stopped and lets her get her breath back and get used to this. Leaning down, Issei softly kissed Lucy as he gently wiped the tears that were coming out. Lucy knew that her first time would be painful, but she never imagined the pain would be 10 times worse. But, as the feeling of pain slowly faded by, she began to get used to something large inside of her. After a moment of the two staying still, Lucy again softly nodded, allowing Issei to continue as he pulled out before going back in slowly. As Issei fed more of himself into her, an image of a family popped up in her mind for a second before the two were joined at the hip. The reaction he got was her vaginal muscles contracting around his hock as she moaned loudly and threw her head back as he slowly started to pick up his speed. The pain she felt at the beginning was now gone and was replaced with pleasure as Issei made love to Lucy. Issei changed the pace up, throwing the rhythm off, getting a loud moan from Lucy. She brought Issei down and locked lips with him. Mind is going blank, he is so perfect, Lucy thought as she felt Issei break from the lip lock and started to slow down a little. Soon he lifted her right leg over his shoulder, getting a whole new penetration that made Lucy's eyeballs roll up in pure pleasure. "Oh Issei, you are really good at this," Lucy exclaimed. Issei felt her vaginal muscles tightening around his hock as he pulls out, as if it doesn't want him to leave. When he thrust it in again, he hit her G-spot, causing her to widen her eyes and scream in ecstasy as she let out a large orgasm all over Issei's hick in his bed. Issei grabbed her ass, giving it a good squeeze, along with a slap that sent a shiver through Lucy. She even moaned loudly as he lifted her up and started kissing her neck as she wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. She smiled softly as she rolled her hips against his, clashing against each other. As Issei pulled away from her neck after leaving a hickey, his brown eyes looked into her dark blue eyes as they were staring at him with new life in them. Her lips were now set into a constant motion of moaning that was music to his ears as his hips slapped against hers in a constant motion. Smashing his lips against hers, he easily slid his tongue past her lips and quickly dominated her mouth, silencing her moans that were replaced with small whimpers. This session was beyond amazing to Lucy as she felt him change the pace and making her scream into his lips as he started hammering harder into her. Breaking apart from the kiss again, Issei instantly started to suck on her tits, causing another moan to erupt from her beautiful lips. Lucy screamed as she felt Issei sucking her breast. "Why yes, buck me harder, suck me harder, I'm all yours, this body is all yours," she yelled ecstatically. Lucy quick flipped positions with him, starting to ride him with all her might. Her hips started to go up and down, making him growl from pleasure. As she continued to ride him hard, Issei brought one hand up and started again playing with her tits, whilst the other grabbed her ass hard, making her moan again as she threw her head backward as he felt her walls tighten slightly, making him know she was near her release. Deciding to accelerate it a bit, Issei started to pump into her at full power as she was slamming into him, which causing Lucy to widen her eyes and started to scream with pleasure at the brute slamming into her. "Oh god, if he keeps this up I'm going to go into a coma," Lucy thought. "Ah, you really are amazing at this, Issei, make me so that I can't walk," Lucy said possessively as she saw him growl with a smile. The way he was pounding her, she was slowly becoming addicted to him even more than what she already has. I belong to you. I'm close. Where do you want it? Issei asked as he felt himself near his own release. Lucy looked Issei in the eyes, she felt his hick twitch inside her. She pieced it together and knew what was coming, she was near again as well. But that didn't stop her from wanting to do it together. Oh gee god, ah see cum inside, fill me up, Lucy said before shouting the last part, throwing her head back. Cum and me, Lucy roared in pleasure as she climaxed all over Issei again. Issei, feeling her tighten around his hick, was thrown over the edge, and with one final thrust, he reached as far as he can and released all of his hot seed into Lucy's womb. Spurt after spurt of Issei's seed was sent into Lucy as she locked lips with him with a loud moan as she felt Issei's hot seed spill into her womb. Oh god, it's so much, I'm going to get pregnant from this much cum, Lucy thought while whimpering shortly after seeing Issei pull out of her. Oh, already done? Up for round 2 with little old me already? Lucy asked as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Issei smirked and grabbed her by her ass and lifted her into the air. Oh hell no, I'm not letting you get off the hook that easy after all that you made me go through. Issei said huskily, getting Lucy more aroused. As Issei pinned her quickly against the bed, Lucy was ecstatic to see that he had a lot more into the tank and that this night will be the one for remembering. Leaning down to her ear, he placed his hands on her and lifted them up as she licked his neck. Now you know, we'll know what pure domination is, love. Issei whispered as she kissed and nibbled his neck as he groaned. Show me, love. Show me pure domination, I want to feel being dominated by you, Lucy answered as Issei pulled back a bit, making her see the hickey she left on him. Feeling accomplished with her mark on him for the time being, she felt his hick at her entrance before slowly entering her. Moaning loudly, Issei felt her vaginal muscles tighten around his shaft as he entered deeply into her. I am so damn lucky, how did I get so lucky? Issei thought as he started to pound Lucy, her breasts started to bounce from the motion. Ah, you really like this hick, don't you? Issei asked as he lifted her up. Reaching under her, Issei grabbed Lucy's ass tightly, getting a throaty moan in the process as he positions himself so she can start to ride him by bouncing on his rod hard. Oh god Issei, you are amazing, Lucy shouted as she climaxed again on his shaft, making it easier for her to bounce on him, while Issei grinned before licking, kissing, and nibbling on her neck to leave his own hickey. Leaving her neck after leaving his hickey, he looked at Lucy's face, seeing the one thing he hasn't seen from anyone before, which was love in her eyes when she is looking at him. Issei placed his lips on hers for a slow, passionate kiss. Lucy began to slow down the pace, making the session a lot slower and sensual for the two. Issei's mind was racing as the two's tongues battled. He never felt better in his life. He was making love with a girl that stole his heart and made sure that he was never truly alone. It was the small thing that she did that made her in his eyes even more desirable. Lucy felt alive when she kissed Issei. She kissed him with all the passion she could muster. As she was feeling her climax approach, Issei pulled out of her, making her eyes go wide in shock at what he did. Though, she wasn't surprised when he turns her around and bent her over before slamming his rod into her, making her have a mouthful of moans that were filling the room. As Issei pounded her from behind with all his power, Lucy couldn't help but feel the seventh heaven hell, she was overloaded with pleasure. As Issei was pounding her and hearing her moans, he felt himself coming close and could tell that she was also near the climax again. With a few final powerful thrusts into her, Issei released all of his cum deep inside her, getting Lucy to wide her eyes as she roared in pleasure as she also came with his final thrust before both falling down on the bed. Both panted hard whilst they smiled to each other before kissing deeply, hugging each other before falling asleep in each other's embrace, with a content smiles on their faces. Lemon end. As the sun come over the horizon, Issei felt something on top of him. Stirring a bit, he opened his eyes to see Lucy, her head on his chest with a beautiful smile on her face. Her dark blue eyes shined with love at him that made him smile, remembering what transpired yesterday. Morning, Lucy. Issei softly said, her smile widened before she kissed him on the lips with a lot of passion and love. Morning, my love. Sleep well. I had the best sleep in my whole life. Lucy told him, their noses and forehead were touching, making Issei smile. Yeah, I never felt this fresh in my whole life. Issei said as Lucy quickly kissed him again before getting up. Well love, I will take a shower, then make us some breakfast before school. Lucy said as Issei nodded. As Lucy left to take a shower, Issei summoned his gear to see with Elsha how to get to the two pantheons that he had to go to take the weapon that would make her whole again. Morning guys, hope you had a good sleep. Issei said as he heard a grumble from Drake and a laughter from Elsha. Oh dear, I did have a bit of trouble sleeping with all that racket, but still, I'm really happy for you dear. Though now that you did it with her, other girls will want it as well. Elsha spoke as Issei's face went red. Fufu, don't worry, since Lucy is alpha in your harem, she can easily decide who gets you and when, haha. Elsha said, making Issei awkwardly smile. Yeah, though on another topic, how do I get to Norse or Slavic pantheon? Issei asked. For Norse, you need to go to Norway as there is where Asgard is. As for Slavic, it's a bit difficult to say. Well, Russia would be logical choice, since it's biggest of the Slav nations. Slavic gods are on all three, how you can say sides. Some are in eastern parts, some western and some south. I guess Perrin is in east, but for a weapon, you will most likely have to go to the South Slavs. And a fair warning, they are as powerful as their east brothers. Elsha told him, making him nod before hearing Lucy yell that the shower was free, prompting him to go take a quick bath. So, in essence, go to Norway before going to Russia, and hopefully if we are lucky the weapon will be there, if not, go to Powder Cake and hope to survive. Issei asked to make sure he got it right. Yes dear, that is the plan. Now as much as I would love to see you shower and having one with you I will go to sleep. Bye dear. Elsha said in a sly voice, making Issei blush before he took a shower and later ate the delicious food that his future queen and wife made. Chapter 26. Belzerd and start of Elsha's quest. As they made their way to school, Issei and Lucy were joined by Issei's unofficial harem as they. Though, all the girls were wondering why Lucy was beaming a huge smile on her face, her eyes shined in light that were opposite to the ones they saw when she was angry. But when they asked her, all they got was a giggle and that she would set it later, which made them all confused, but they surged it off as a small thing. The school was boring as it got, the only bright thing that happened was that both Cassie and Zenobia enrolled into the school. Cassie being in Issei's class and Zenobia in Kiba's, that sent uproar in Former's class, as Cassie politely refused every male attempt to get her out on the date by saying that she will go out with only one person that was in this class. But the class is over, all the people that knew about Supernatural went to Orc, as Rias sent them a message that there was something to announce. Which brought smiles on Issei's harem, as they already knew, but still why not come as it would be fun as Lucy had also something to announce. Entering the club room, they were met with Rias Peerage and surprisingly Grafia and Surziches. They each have a smile on their faces when they saw Issei and Lucy entering. When the greeting was over, Surziches opened the parchment where Issei's results of the promotion were. Clearing his thoughts a bit, Surziches read what was the result. Council of high-class devils, heads of remaining pillars and elders are proud to announce. The devil of the house of Gremory. Issei Haidu, the pawn of high-class devil Rias Gremory, is hereby promoted to middle class. The content of the test is knowledge of devil's history and martial combat. Knowledge rating. 75 100s, pass. Martial combat. 90 100s, pass. The result of the promotion of 24.05. Test. Signatures. Surziches Luciferiju Beelzebub Seraphol Leviathan Falbium Asmodeus. Hearing that, everyone cheered and hugged Issei tightly as they congratulate him for his success. As the cheers died down, Lucy cleared her throat as she wanted to announce something. Sister, brother-in-law, everyone. Both Issei and I have decided to take the ritual when he reaches the high class and that during the time in this world, my full name will be Lucy Haidu, while in the underworld Lucy Lucifuge Haidu. Lucy told them, making both Surziches and Grafia go wide eyes as they quickly looked from Lucy to Issei, seeing him nod and chuckle a bit while everyone was confused. What Surziches and Grafia yelled in union, scaring everyone while Lucy just giggled. Yes, he said it himself, ask him if you don't trust me. Lucy mentioned to them as they looked at Issei, who was having a hard time not laughing. Yeah, what she said it's true. Issei answered, prompting Grafia to hug them both tightly out of happiness, while Surziches just had a huge smile. What are they talking about, brother? Rias asked, dreading the answer. But she wanted to know if she still had a chance to steal her ice back, even if it's something outrageous. Oh that. Well, long story short, when Ice get to high class with getting his pieces, he will also have a chance to take Lucy's hand in marriage. Of course, they will then get engaged, but you get the picture. Surziches explained, getting a gasp from everyone present at the news. While some very happy, other not so much, with Rias being the one that voiced her and some of her peerage's thoughts. What? How can that be possible? He is my pawn and that means that he needs my confirmation for it to go through, and I will not allow it. Rias said in authority with a smug look on her face, but that look was replaced by the look of fear as she felt a huge power rising in the room. Everyone looked towards Issei, who started to radiate a powerful aura around him as he started to release his power. Everyone can tell that he had enough of Ria's antics and that he is about to kill her. Issei Lucy quickly spoke, trying to bring him back. But she failed from the looks of things, as Issei's booster gear shined brightly with Drake voice speaking dreaded words. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. As Issei's aura formed a sphere around him, after a few seconds it exploded and Issei was in his armor, slowly making his way towards Rias. However, Surziches and Grafia stood in front of Rias, protecting her from the massacre that would happen. I stop this or you will leave me no choice than to bring you down, Surziches ordered, but to his confusion, Issei started laughing hard. But what confused both adults was that the laughter wasn't his voice, it was someone that they haven't heard in a long time, which made them sweat a bit. Oh, little Surziches and little Grafia. It's nice to see you again, how long was it? 200 years. Hahaha, the voice said, as both Serziches and Grafia widened their eyes as they now knew who was in control of Ice. "Me Belzerd?" Serziches asked, making the other people in room gasp. "Yes, it is me. Now move aside, or you want it the hard way. This boy deserves much better than what your spoiled little sister is. You do remember what I told you? About what would happen if I felt that a devil is stopping a security. I would help them in any way possible, and now, I will help him hurt that girl, even if I have to go through you. Which I do hope you would be smart enough to avoid." Belzerd said as he started to release a lot more power than before. "Still, I can't let you do that even if that means fighting you." Serziches said as he started to release his power, with Grafia following his lead. While everyone was terrified of the power of the two strongest devils except Lucy, Belzerd just laughed even more. "I guess it's the hard way then," Belzerd said sarcastically as he vanished from his spot and appeared in front of Rias before kneeing her in the stomach, making her spit blood as she fell on her knees. As his job was done, he returned quickly his side, shocking Grafia and Serziches, who couldn't follow his movements at all. It was all done in less than a millisecond. "And with that done, I will leave. I will train the boy, Serziches. You better knock some sense in that spoiled princess, or I will end her myself if need be," Belzerd said before turning to Lucy. "He really has a good choice of woman. I wish you luck and your wife with him. You really are beautiful like your sister," Belzerd said, making Lucy blush before Issei's armor vanished. Issei wobbled a bit before falling to head first, making Lucy's eyes widen as she quickly lifted his head while calling him. But it was of no avail for a few moments before Issei started to shake a bit, letting her know that he was alright. "How can he be that fast? Even I didn't saw him move last time he matched my power, but how is he above ours combined?" Grafia asked her husband, who just shook his head in disbelief. "I don't know, Grafia, I really don't know. Maybe it has to do with the potential of the host. If he can do this with Issei, already on high-class strength, then Issei must have a potential that could, if trained properly and given enough time, he could reach Satan class or even Super Devil class," Serziches said, shocking everyone again. "Oh, what happened?" Issei asked as he stirred a bit, opening his eyes, only to feel Lucy's lips on his before a hit to the back of the head from her. "Idiot," Lucy yelled, making some chuckle as Issei nursed his head. "Ouch, ouch, ouch, why did you hit me?" Issei questioned, making her glare at him, but Grafia stopped Lucy with a giggle. "Lucy, don't kill your husband yet, you fufu and Ice. I will come here tomorrow to take you to Underworld to have a little talk with you about a ritual and what transpired with Rias, understood?" Grafia said, making both Lucy and Issei blush before they nodded. Grafia smiled before looking at her husband, noticing that he has a calculated look in his eyes. "Master, it's time to go back, don't you think?" she asked, bringing Serziches back to reality, who nodded. "Yes, let's go. Ice, I will talk to you tomorrow. Everyone enjoy the party, and Ice, congratulations on your promotion again." With that, Grafia and Serziches left. Cadis decided to change the mood from tense to a carefree as she opened a few cans of juice and gave it to everyone before shouting. "Issei's promotion," Cadis yelled. "Issei," everyone yelled, and from the looks of things, Cadis's plan worked as everyone started to have fun and celebrate not one but two things. As the day of Issei's celebration was coming along nicely after the incident that happened with Belzerd. And the South Carolina coming to congratulate the newly middle-class devil his promotion, Lucy and the girls from Issei's harem, along with the South Carolina girls, were talking about some girl stuff, while also after hearing what Issei said about what he will do when he hits the high class, the girls squealed in happiness at the chance to attend the marriage of the couple. While the boys were talking about what everyone had in plan going forward, it was a relaxed atmosphere as the night settled, and everyone called it a night for today. It was late at night when Ice and his ladies exited the Orc as they were walking toward their homes. Issei made sure he escorted all of them home since it was closing near midnight, and as a reward from other girls, he got a kiss on the lips, while with Cassie kissing him on the cheek. In the time that Cassie and Zenobia joined the Orc Club, Issei and his future peerage harem spent a lot of time talking and getting to know the cute greenette and the blue-haired destruction. But even with Cassie and Zenobia now being normal with them, Cassie refused to say why she utterly ripped Fried to pieces and what was the meaning of his words, stating that she still wasn't ready to tell them and that when she felt ready, she would reveal the meaning of Fried's words. As he entered his home with Lucy and two, they went to wash up before having a dinner and going to sleep, since tomorrow will be a long day for them with having Grafia and Serziches interrogating them about a lot of things, mostly he was sure was about what happened to him and ritual for Lucy. But that in mind, both lovers drifted to sleep with Lucy snuggling in his chest that become her personal pillow. As Lucy was having a nice dream, Issei on the other hand, was in his mind confronted by Drag, Elsha, and another figure that was clearly a well-built man that had grey eyes and tilt hair. The man clearly radiated power as Issei was a bit afraid of him. Though that all changed as Elsha, who saw his fright, came close to him and gently took his hand while speaking in soft and tender voice to calm him. Ice dear, you don't need to be afraid he won't hurt you. He is also a past host of Drag and the strongest one of us to date. Belzerd Sparrow or Belzerd the Unstoppable. Elsha told him, making Issei go wide eyes as he stared at the man who couldn't help but chuckle a bit. What Elsha said is true, partner. Belzerd here killed the two white ones and managed a lot of other great deeds that to this date are unmatched. Only Elsha managed to barely get close to his deeds. Drake spoke next, making Issei look at Elsha, seeing her nod before his eyes went to the man that was still chuckling near Drake. Wow, Issei barely managed to speak as he was overwhelmed by it all. That prompted a man to start laughing as he couldn't hold it in him. Issei was just too funny to him. After calming down a bit, the man stepped forward and looked Issei in the eyes. Issei Haidu, the current host of Drag, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Belzerd and like Elsha said, I'm the strongest one who wields Drag's power, but if you continue to surpass your limits, I can already tell that you will be the one that will surpass both Elsha and me. And from what I've been hearing and seeing about you, I can honestly say that you are already in high ranking of the host of the Heavenly Dragon. Belzerd spoke with a voice that was full of power and might. It's a pleasure to meet you, Belzerd. Issei quickly said, bowing down to him, making him smile before shaking his head. You don't need to bow down to me. I can see a warrior in you, and as a warrior myself, you don't need to bow down. Warriors never bow down, they always keep their heads up and high with honor. Belzerd instructed Issei, who nodded a bit before he straightens out, making Belzerd smile. But that is better, now I see that you are the pawn of the red-haired princess, sister of Surzich's. And from what Drag and Elsha told me, you are with Graphia's little sister and plan to marry her. I congratulate you on that later. But first, I can only imagine what happened to get you into her peerage, so to help you, I've decided to help and train you myself with Elsha and Drag, so I will give you rest for tonight. Starting tomorrow, when you fall asleep, you will be starting your training. Belzerd spoke again, shocking Issei to the core as he was about to get trained by the strongest of them all. Belzerd, you didn't put that challenge on him for training? Elsha asked, also in shock that Issei would be getting personal training from him and wouldn't need to prove himself. Yes, Elsha, I'm going to train him and there is no need for that. I saw how he handles himself against the Phoenix and Kakabiel. And even with your training and help, it was still him who fought and even managed to beat his future wife in a duel, through a tough one, but nevertheless honorable duel with his own cunning and might. Belzerd explained to her, making Elsha smile and nod at him before she hugged and kissed Issei on the cheek. Well, you are in luck, it took me 15 years before he trained me. Though will you request from Surzich's to go to Norse and Slavs? Elsha asked, making Issei nod. Yes, I will tell him when I see him tomorrow. And I think he will most likely want to know why I wanted to go there, and I will tell him honestly. Issei replied, making Elsha smile before she and other two disappear from Issei, going back to his own dreams. We will see you tomorrow, my dear, sleep well. Elsha spoke just before they vanished from sight. As the morning of a new day came, Issei and Lucy will soon have a lot of explaining to. Issei was awakened by his beautiful girl, cooking what was irresistible to wake anyone up. Making his way downstairs, he was met with what he expected, Lucy in the kitchen making some food for them both while humming to herself softly. Smiling, Issei slowly made his way towards her, hugging her around the waist, making her yelp a bit from fright that he caused, while he just chuckled and kissed her cheek softly. Morning, love, slept well? Lucy asked as she blushed a bit as Issei put his head on her shoulder gently with his breath intently hitting her neck. I had a good sleep, though I did have a conversation with Drag, Elsha, and the strongest host of Drag, Belzerd. But your delicious cooking woke me up, dear. Issei answered her softly, while kissing her neck making her shiver a bit with a smile. Really? Belzerd? Lucy asked as she was watching the eggs frying. You heard of him? Issei asked with a bit of surprise in his voice. Well, we all heard him when you got angry at Rias and was about to slaughter her. He, from the looks of things, took your body for a moment before releasing you, hun. Lucy answered him. Now that you mentioned, I guess that is what Surzich's wants to talk to me about the most, but oh well, we will see him after breakfast. It's Saturday, so no school. Issei spoke, making Lucy nod with a smile. Yes, love, I think we should call Murayama, Caddis, Cassie and Chelsea and start training for a bit after we return home. It would be good for all of us to be prepared if something happens in future. Plus, we do have to go to Europe after all for Elsha's sake. Lucy told him, making Issei think for a bit before he smiled. Sure, I was thinking of starting to increase my training anyway. So, we might as well train together. Issei spoke with a smile while helping Lucy putting the food on the table. Sitting in front of the two very powerful people would strike fear into almost anyone. And Issei, if he was honest with himself, was now very afraid of Graphia more than Surzich's. It was true that Surzich's was stronger, but woman's wrath was something he knew very well not to face if he wanted to live. Drinking the tea, made by said woman, Lucy, Issei, Surzich's and Graphia were sitting in Surzich's personal quarters around the table, with one couple facing the other. "So what do you guys wanted to talk with me?" Issei asked a bit scared. It took a few seconds for Grafia to start this conversation. Those few seconds were like an eternity for Issei as he waited what would be said. Lucy and Surziches just waited to see what Grafia has to say. If they were honest, they were expecting that Grafia take Issei to talk to him alone, but she didn't, so it couldn't be that bad, right? What we want to talk to you about, Issei, is about what Lucy said about the ritual and what happened to you after Rias spoke. But we will talk about the ritual now, we'll talk about Rias later. Grafia spoke elegantly while slowly drank her tea. "Sister, I know that the ritual is big deal, but I have no doubt in my mind that we will do it, and even if we failed, which there is no way in hell, I would still love and cherish Issei with my whole heart and be with him." Lucy told her clearly. "That I don't doubt Lucy at all, what I want is a confirmation on Issei about this, and when did you mention this to him?" Grafia responded to Lucy while looking her seriously, making the said girl sweat a bit. "Well, I did mention it to him when I took him to promotion testing. I told him that there is a ritual involving as to marry and him becoming the head of our clan then." Lucy answered her sister, making Grafia look towards Issei, who just nodded his head. "What Lucy said is true, I was first surprised that there is one and that it would need me to get to achieve a high class to do it. But that also gave me a lot more reason to go up the ladder as fast as I can, as I would be very proud and very happy to have Lucy as my wife." Absorbing his answer, Grafia looked towards Surziches, who nodded his head in acknowledgement before clearing his throat with a cough. "Now that would be something interesting to see. Though what would you do, Issei, when you get to be a head of the clan? That is the more important issue. I have no doubt about Lucy managing things in your name, though do you have anything that will strengthen Lucifuge clan with the rest, or will you use solemnly your own might to do so?" Surziches asked, knowing that the choices that Issei would make in the future could have a huge impact. "Well, first thing is for me is to get to high class in order to get my peerage, and to do that ritual in order to marry the woman I love with all of my heart. Next is that I got Ravel from the Phoenix clan to be my future bishop, and just a note, she alone decided to be in my peerage without Lady Phoenix or my influence. That would hopefully bring closer the two houses. Of course, I will be in alliance with Gremory, that is without a doubt, so you can rest assured Surziches I will help in any way I can. Then, since I made a pact with Elsha about bringing her back to life, I plan of course with your two's permission to go Norse and Slavic factions in order to bring her back. With her, maybe I can also form a treaty with those two factions if things go smoothly." Issei answered honestly, making the adults look at his for the moment before processing all the info given to them. They couldn't help but smile at what he had planned. It didn't take a genius to figure out what Issei planned, and from the sounds of things, it was rather an interesting plan, and one that would no doubt increase the Lucifuge prestige and strength at tenfold. Though that begged the question about Elsha's revival. "Ice, what is this about reviving Elsha? And now that we are talking about past holders of Drag, did you meet Belzard like Elsha or he is still unknown to you?" Surziches asked, hoping to get some good news. "I made a pact with her, that in exchange, giving me enough power to beat Riser. I would have to pay the price for it, and that price is bringing her back to life. She told Lucy and me where to start the search, and from what she said, it's best to head to the Norse, as Slavs are a bit more warlike and will not listen. So that begs the question, would it be alright for Lucy and me to head to Asgard and talk to them about Elsha? As for Belzard, I meet him in the gear and he agreed to train me as I have proved myself to him by my deeds." Issei told him, while Grafia and Lucy looked at Surziches waiting for him to answer. What Issei said rings some bells in Surziches. He was already been informed about the meeting of all three factions for peace talks, along with a possible alliance. That meeting would happen in next month or two by Azazel, who told him that Archangel Michael has already agreed to come. Soon all sides would finally decide to put aside their petty differences, and, if what Issei told him was true and he was planning on bringing back Elsha, that would mean that he will have to talk to gods of both factions. This will be the perfect opportunity for them to attend this meeting and if possible, to all of them form an alliance with each other. It would be a win-win for both sides, and Surziches knew that every powerful member Issei could recruit will help both causes. "I see, well I have no problem with that. Though I have a request for you, Issei, since I will allow you to go to Europe and talk to Norse and Slavs, I would like for you to tell them that soon there would be a meeting between three factions for peace talks and possibly alliance, and that I would very much appreciate if they could also come for this." Surziches answered, making Issei smile and nod his head, while Lucy hugged her future husband tightly. "Sure, I will tell them, but what's the reason for this meeting?" Issei spoke, making Surziches chuckle a bit while Grafia explained it. "The cause is what Kakabiel did and what he told. And you, Issei, being the one that gave your full support for the Exorcist's efforts to stop the warmonger, showed to all three leaders that there is still a chance to change this fragile ceasefire and go for peace and alliance." Grafia told him, making him smile even more. "Finally, and it only took you guys what 2,000 years, hahaha." Issei said, making all of them laugh at how much it needed to call the ceasefire obsolete and to move forward. With major conversation whittling down, the four of them changed subject to other lighter conversation while having a bit of fun on all of their accounts. Several days later, Issei decided along Surzich's and Graphia's permission start heading to Europe, but as usual, took a different route as the kendo duo, Chelsea and Cassie, decided to go with him much to his protest, saying that only Lucy and he are allowed to go there. But to his dismay, Surzich's just said it was alright for them also to come as technically they were not devils and were human, so it didn't break an agreement. So now, Issei had to deal with 4 more people that were with Lucy and him as they flew from Japan to Norway. The first thing Issei did when they finally got to Norway was to look for a hotel where they would be staying. Since he could speak almost any language, it wasn't a difficult thing to do. Soon they quickly got into their rooms to leave their stuff before regrouping in Issei's room that was in the middle of the 2 others that were shared between Cadis and Murayama and Chelsea and Cassie. As they all took seats in various places in Issei's and Lucy's room, Issei summoned his gear, making it shine brightly before Elsha appeared in front of the group in her full form, making her smile seeing that everyone from Issei's harem was there and ready to support him in his quest. Looking towards Issei, Elsha smiled before kissing his cheek, making him blush a bit, but other than that they went down to business. Okay Elsha, here we are in Norway. Now do you know where to go or who to talk to get to Asgard? Issei asked, making her nod. Yes dear, I know both, but I think it would be better for you guys to go directly to Asgard, as Surzich has already managed to make an agreement for it. Elsha answered, making Issei look at her to continue. And the place where you will find Asgard is in the mountains just north of Skjolden. Though you can reach that place by transport, but after that, it's about 5 hours of walking to the barrier that surrounds Asgard, and there are a few outposts that guard the entrances into it. I could guide you to it, but after that, it's all up to you dear. Elsha explained, making Issei and the girls nod. Well, we will head there tomorrow, we need a bit of rest after that flight and need to buy some supplies for the journey. Issei said while the rest agreed. Well both Chelsea and me can go and buy supplies, while Murayama and Cadis could go buy some winter clothes for all of us. Cassie said, making Issei nod before turning to see the girls, also nodded their heads as they had an opportunity to go shopping and to explore the city. Very well then, both Lucy and I will go to get some food for all of us. So, girls, let's get to it Issei spoke, getting another nod from everyone as they all headed in their pursuit of things to buy. Each have got a shopping list that Elsha made, each listing what they would need for the harsh Norwegian climate. While Issei and his group were far away in Europe, back in Japan, the situation was coming to near destructive mood as a certain red-haired heiress was very pissed at her brother for what he did without her knowledge again. And do tell again my dear brother. Why did you allow one of my pieces to go to another country and faction without my thoughts or authorization? He is my piece and only I can decide if he can leave or not. Rias yelled at her brother while he was looking bored at her and slightly irritated by her actions and her behavior. Rias Gremory, I may be your brother, but I'm also the Mao Lucifer and my word is final. I told Issei to go to Europe to the Norse and Slavs for 2 reasons that could very much benefit both sides. Surzich said in a voice that was no longer brotherly, but it was with more authority and power to make it crystal clear to Rias. Hearing his strict voice made Rias flinch a bit as she understood that she was starting to cross the line with her brother. So, she decided to ask why it was beneficial. And what will we gain by him going to Europe with that silver whore and other bitches? Rias harshly asked, clearly still angry that at least she wasn't with Issei. If you really must know, Issei is there to revive Elsha, the previous host of Drag, and while there to make contact with both factions. Surzich's answer making Rias rise her eyebrow at him. And why does he want to revive her? And why would we need to get into contact with some weak factions? Why is something that isn't important to you Rias, as for weak factions that you mentioned? They are powerful enough to compete and win against us individually, combined I could say with ease that they would destroy the 3 factions with ease. So, I would stop thinking that we are the strongest when there are far more factions that are stronger. Surzich's answered her making her eyes go wide at what he said. But before she could say anything Surzich's beat her to it. Well I will be off then, I will talk to you later about something also important. Till then little sis. Surzich's spoke again, and before Rias could even say a word, he vanished, leaving her alone in the clubroom as her peerage was off doing their devil's work. Issei Rias shouted in her mind before she was brought back to reality by the magic circulars of her clan that light up the clubroom, signaling that her team was back from their work. Chapter 27. Meeting the Norse gods. As Issei and his team regrouped in the hotel, they all brought what they bought to Issei's room before they ate and calling it the day. While everyone was asleep and resting, Issei, on the other hand, was in his mind again with Elsha, Belzerd and Drag in Elsha's part of his mind. But the former training with Belzerd in his hand-to-hand combat, which proved to be hell, as Belzerd was throwing Issei around like he was a used doll. After his light-sparing ass whooping, Issei had magic training with Elsha that was more like a shooting practice for her. Issei was also dominated in that regard. It was painfully clear to him, both past hosts of Drake were putting his training regimen into the next gear, while Drake just laid down on the grassy field of Elsha's domain. Relaxing and laughing at his current host as he was again sent flying courtesy of Elsha's ice magic. After a few more rounds of getting his ass handed to him by both Elsha and Belzerd, Issei finally managed to get some break, as both hosts decided that Issei had enough for now, so they all sat down with Elsha, bringing some water and food for Issei with magic, which he devoured with dragon's ferocity, making everyone chuckle at his expense. Well Ice, that was a good warm-up for what I'm about to teach you. Elsha also had to go through this, so don't think that you are the only one. Belzerd said after Issei finished his bottle of water, making Issei go wide eyes as he started to pale a bit at what the strongest Securitate said. This W was just a warm-up. Issei asked in fear, making Belzerd chuckle a bit. But of course, you didn't expect that this is all. Now what I'm about to teach you is somewhat similar to MMA, but unlike it, this is way more brutal. It's called a pancration, the ancient fighting style that was created by the most feared warriors in history. The Spartans, as to how I know about it, was because an older Drake host that mentioned that on Mount Olympus where the Greek gods reside, is the place where the Greek god of war Ares also resides. Ares' personal guards are the finest and bravest warriors in ancient Greece's history. They were known for their bravery, zeal, cunning and sheer brute strength and ferocity. I assume you heard of the famous 300 Spartans. Belzerd told Issei, getting him to nod in acknowledgement. Good, the commander of Ares' guards is none other than the great king of the Spartans, Leonidas himself. The one that sacrificed his own life in order for the rest of the army to withdraw and fight another while his royal guard and allies stayed to defend till their last breath. From what I was told by the great warrior king himself is that it was on Ares' personal request that Hades let them out of the Deathlands so they can serve their war god for eternity. Belzerd explained more, getting Issei so whistle in admiration for their deeds. He heard a lot of great stories about the legendary warriors, and he had to say that he found Spartans as a prime example of bravery, though not to say that other warriors from other countries weren't as brave or strong as Spartans. Vikings, samurais, immortals, Praetorian Guard, winged hussars, knights of a red dragon, Varangian Guard were also some of the best warriors the world has ever produced, and their deeds on the battlefields of the world left all others in awe at their art of war. The opportunity to learn even one of the arts that those mighty warriors knew and were experts of was a blessing in the sky. And Issei was sure that he would do everything needed to master one of the arts of war that those people before him learned and were frightening and deadly efficient in that. Wow, and you are going to teach me their fighting skills and all of that? Issei questioned, getting a nod from Belzerd, making Issei grin. What are we waiting for then? Let's get started, Issei shouted in excitement as he was barely containing his desire to get as stronger as possible. That's the spirit, Issei. Now, come, let's begin. Belzerd said with a chuckle as both Issei and he stood up. The latter started to show the moves and the quickest ways to defeat an opponent, even how to murder in the easiest moves and with little to no power at all. While Issei was getting into his training with vigor with battling with Belzerd, who was purposely holding back in order to get as stronger as possible. It occurred to Elsha that there is also one other thing that could also accelerate Issei's growth a lot more also. Thus, when Belzerd and Issei finished their pancration training, Elsha stepped forward. Everyone, something just occurred too that will accelerate Issei's growth even more than it is already. Elsha spoke, making both males and a dragon to look at her with raised eyebrows. What is it that you have in mind, Elsha? Drake questioned, making Elsha giggle. Drake, it's easy, we need to start training Issei with weapons. He is good with hand-to-hand combat, but as all of us know, it will come a time when he will need to face someone who is a weapons master. Like how Zenobia, Cassie and Kiba are, all three are very powerful swordsmen who could fight you evenly, Ice. Elsha replied, making Drake grumble in agreement, with both Belzerd and Issei nodding in agreement. Fair point you brought out, Elsha, but what weapon could Issei use? That is the real question. Belzerd added, his thought getting all of them to stop and think about it. After a few minutes of thinking, Elsha, Belzerd and Drake stopped thinking as they realized that the only one who could know was Issei, and it was pointless for them to damage their brains. As the three mentioned turned toward Issei, he blinked a few times before he started sweating at the looks they were giving him. Why yes. Did you thought of a weapon that you would like to use? Belzerd asked, getting Issei to shyly nod his head. Yeah, I have. And? Belzerd asked again, starting to get only a bit irritated. Well, I was thinking about a sword, it is something that is more appealing to me. Issei answered, getting a nod from Belzerd. Yes, with your fighting style, it is more appreciative for you to go with a close quarters weapon. Very well, we will see what we can do about getting you a good sword for you. Belzerd spoke with a grin, making Issei grin in return. Well, as much as I would like for you Ice to stay, you must get up soon. So we will call it a night. For now, I will speak to you a bit later, dear. Elsha said as Issei's vision started to darken as he felt himself exiting Elsha's realm and going back to his own dreams. As the morning sun of the day that will get Issei closer to bringing back Elsha rose up, Issei found himself waking up alone. That thought didn't bother him at all, since it was clear to him that Lucy was always up before him. But what bothered him was the note he found from his girlfriend future wife, that she and the girls will be waiting for him at the gathering hall, so that they can start their objective, and that if he didn't come down to a said place in 5 minutes, there would be hell to pay. Seeing that his life was in danger from the wrath of waiting girls, and knowing their ire, Issei quickly gathered his things and quickly put up his clothes that Murayama and Caddis bought, before racing towards the hall at incredible speed. Seeing that their king has arrived, only a few seconds before hell, they all smiled as they started to walk towards the bus station that will take them towards the closest town to Asgard. Like Elsha said yesterday, it was a 5 hours trip toward the small town that lay on a border of the human and supernatural world. As they exited the bus that took them from Oslo to Skjolden, everyone felt the shivers going up their back as the cold air from the mountains that were covered with snow. Elsha, where now? We arrived at Skjolden, which way to go? Issei asked in his mind. Ice, take the route towards the highest mountain you see, behind it lays Asgard. When you descend on the other side of that mountain, there is an outpost that guards this. Approach to them and they will take you into Asgard. Elsha responded, getting Issei to nod before he started to look at which was the highest mountain in the surrounding. It didn't take long before he saw it, and when he did Issei started to turn pale, as the mountain was so high that its peak was hidden by clouds, and they needed to cross it. He was slowly starting to regret his decision of helping Elsha. Shaking his head, Issei coughed in his hand and got the attention from the girls that were close to start exploring the small town. All right girls, Elsha told me where we need to go. Issei said. And where is that, love? Lucy asked as she got closer to him. It's you see that mountain that its peak hidden by the clouds. He stuttered answered. Yeah, Ice we see it, is the entrance in its base. Murayama asked not seeing what the big problem is for him to stutter a bit. No, it's behind it. Issei told them getting the human girls to go wide eyes. What? Yeah, that is what I thought also. But Elsha says that we need to climb it and descend down before we get to the outpost that is behind it, which will take us to Asgard. Issei answered. Elsha better hope that we survive this, or else. Caddis said as the party got their things and started heading towards the mountain. It took 5 more grueling hours for the group to get near the base of the mountain, and another 7 to get over the mountain that was the obstacle to their quest. All in all, when they arrived at the base of the mountain on the other side, they all felt exhausted, hungry and cold. Even the clothes that Murayama and Caddis bought didn't manage to keep them warm, so it was up to Issei and his fire to keep the girls warm. As they warmed themselves up, they started making the last leg of their journey towards one of the outposts that was near that Elsha pointed out to them. Nearing closer and closer, Lucy, Chelsea, Cassie and Issei felt a strong magic barrier that was preventing entry into the land of the Norse. Seeing that they were stuck with no chance of getting in, the group turned to Elsha for help, which she was more than happy to give. As Elsha appeared in her full form, she started chanting in Old Norse language that no one could understand. After finishing her chant, all of them felt that the barrier started to waver before it created a corridor of sorts for them to enter. With a nod from Elsha, everyone started to move through the corridor into Asgard. As soon as they entered Norse domain, they heard a shout. Hold right there, don't move on your knees now. Deciding to obey, everyone did as what was told. Everyone knew that disobeying order in someone's other territory, especially in one of the most powerful faction, was wishing for death, so to avoid that it was better to listen to what was said. As they all kneeled, they saw 2 figures approaching, and from the look of things, both were Valkyries. One was a gorgeous red-haired girl that had amber eyes, and her hair was tied in high ponytail, with 2 strands of hair going to her cheeks. She was about their age, with a scythe that was about 1.5 meters long, its curved blade shining in the afternoon sun. She was in, what Issei and his group could tell, some sort of armor that in the girls' minds was showing a lot of skin, which the girl that was coming closer to them was showing off beautifully. As her curves were easily almost at the point that could match both Lucy and Elsha. The other girl was a light brown with matching eyes. The girl was also in the same armor as her red-haired comrade. But unlike the former, was not showing off her skin that much. As she held a rapier in her hand pointing at them. And what do we have here? 6 intruders, and from the look of things 4 humans, 1 devil and 1 devil-dragon hybrid. What are you doing in Asgard? And how did you get in? Speak now before I behead you all. The red-haired girl spoke with authority as she brought her weapon to Issei's neck. We are here for 2 things. One is to find information, and the other is to invite Lord Odin to a meeting that will take place in the upcoming month or 2. Issei answered, looking the red-haired girl in the eyes without flinching. That is some very interesting words you said. That, however, didn't explain how you got in. Only those with knowledge are able to enter or transport to Asgard if given access by the gods of Asgard. The brown-haired girl spoke, her voice also filled with authority, but was a bit gentle. Then here's comrades 1. I can answer that question. Elsha spoke with a cold commander-like voice suddenly as the booster gear appeared before flashing a bit as Elsha emerged from it in her full glory. Though this time, unlike her usual blood-red dress, she was wearing an armor that made both Valkyrie girls go stiff, as it was an armor that was golden with symbols from both the Norse and Slavic mythology. The armor was similar to the ones girls equipped, it had a helmet that was protecting her head, but leaving her face open, a breastplate with what looked an iron skirt that was somehow swinging like a normal skirt with calf plates and armored boots. From what they could gather, it looked like it was in commander armor and that of high status. All in all, Elsha looked in Issei's eyes even more attractive, and he didn't know how, was it because of his dragonification or something? All he knew was that Elsha and that armor radiated power, and a lot of it. Though while Issei was in awe, the girls were a bit frightened by her appearance. They were very much used to see her in a dress and with a gentle voice, but this was a complete 180. Elsha turned from a gentle lovely girl to a hardened seasoned warrior that had the knowledge and power to get what she wanted and how she wanted. And her being a Sekiryuite made it even more deadly, and everyone could only shiver at the thought of what would happen if someone was on a receiving end of her ire. The two Valkyries, seeing Elsha's armor dropped, down on their knees immediately, they were thought that the one that wore that armor was very high in position and was very powerful. G General, B but how? We were thought that you were dead. The brown-haired girl asked in a frightening tone, still keeping her head down in submission. That is not something that I wish to discuss here, lead away to Lord Odin. Now Elsha answered in the cold voice that showed clear superiority over the two girls, before she turned towards her friends and mentioning to them to get up and follow the girls. This way General. The red-haired girl said as she and her comrades started to walk towards Asgard. As they were walking towards the home of the Norse gods, Elsha decided to give some information and tips on what to do and how to behave, while telling Issei that he doesn't have to worry about her being in a mortal plane, and that Drake will be the one that will supply just enough power for Issei to sustain her being here. It took about an hour or so of walking, from the outpost to the outer walls of the legendary city, where another group of guards was waiting. They were gatekeepers with about 6 of them, 3 males and 3 females, all in battle armor and weapons at the ready. Though the moment they saw the golden armor of Elsha, they all bowed down and opened the gate to let her group and her in. I will leave you guys to imagine how Asgard looks. After they entered the city, they were taken towards a huge hall that had an appearance of a humongous Viking raider longboat, on which deck was a tavern like a house built. Entering the said building, they saw in front of them 2 throne seats with 2 people on them. One was a white-haired man that looked like he was in his 60s with an eye patch over his left eye, while his right one was golden and a long white as snow bearded that went all the way down to the stomach. The said old man held a golden staff in his hand that was decorated nicely with precious stones and other diamonds. While the man looked old, the woman next to him looked like a beautiful woman in her 30s with jet black hair and purple eyes. She was golden dressed in a golden tiara on her head. She looked like a queen, and in minds of the present people she was. Around the two were a lot of people who, from what Issei and Lucy could feel, were gods of the Norse mythology and of very powerful ones, and in front of them were a few top-tier Valkyries and Asgardian warriors defending their gods. After a few steps forward, Elsha bowed down to the gods, which Issei and the rest followed suit and spoke in her military voice that was still very foreign to others. I, Elsha Markovic, present myself to the gods of the Norse mythology, the supreme commander of the Imperial Russian armies, commander of Lord Perrin's the god of thunder and sky's royal guards of the Slavic lands, and commander of the personal bodyguard unit of Valkyries of Lord Odin, the mighty all-father of northern lands. I, your humble servant, ask for an audience with you, my might lord, if you wish to hear my humble request and the request of my comrades. Elsha, is that really you? How are you back on the mortal lands? All of you can stand up. The woman seated on the throne spoke with a gentle voice as she stood up, prompting the Valkyries and Asgardians to step aside so that their queen can better see their guests. Yes, my lady. I'm somewhat back to the mortal lands as you said, but this is only possible because of a strong host of Drake and Drake's help. Elsha answered in a polite tone as she and the rest stood up. So, one of the people with you is a Sekiryuite, interesting, very interesting. The older man who was still sitting in his throne seat spoke while lightly pulling his beard down. Seeing his questions, Issei stepped forward a bit so he was shoulder to shoulder with Elsha and spoke in a very formal tone that he was taught by Lucifuge sisters and Elsha. That would be me, mighty lord. I'm this generation Sekiryuite, my name is Issei Haidu Lucifuge, and I'm here to request a favor from you and to give you a message from Lord Serzich's Lucifer. Issei told the mighty god that after hearing this slowly stood up. Ah, I see, so you were the one that Serzich's asked for permission to enter our realm. Though he only mentioned 2 devils, not a party of 4 more people to come, and very attractive girls at that. He ouched, the man said, before he got hit by the woman who had a scowl on her face. Odin, the black-haired woman hissed with venom, making the white-haired man known as Odin recoil a bit. Why yes dear. Now as to my question, why are the other 4 here? Odin quickly said, trying to escape his wife fury. I can answer that question, Lord Odin, if that is all right with you. Lucy said, making Odin nod. My name is Lucy Haidu Lucifuge, heiress of the house of Lucifuge and future wife of Issei Haidu the Securitate. The four you mentioned are his future pieces and they strongly wanted to come along with us too, since we all see Elsha as our friend and we want to help her. Lucy told, making the black hair woman to raise an eyebrow at Lucy's words. Help Elsha? The woman asked, getting Lucy to nod. Yes, we are here to find a way to revive her. I guess you all heard of the evil pieces that devils have. If the soul is still present and she can form her body like as you see she can, then it's possible to revive her. We already have one piece of her soul in the booster gear, we only need the other. Interesting, Elsha, do you have anything to say? The woman asked after hearing Lucy. Yes, Lady Frigg, it was my self-desire to return to mortal lands that lead my successor of the booster gear to come here, though he could easily decline it, he stuck to our agreement. Elsha said, making Frigg nod before she looked at Issei and smiled a bit. Very well, we will see what we can do about it. But you all traveled a long way to get here, rest for today, tomorrow we will talk more about it and what you young Securitate have to say. Arnett, Asuna, since you are the ones to escort them to here, you will show them their rooms. You are also to stay here until this situation is dealt, is that understood? Frigg said, making everyone nod. Good, now you are all dismissed, we will talk to you all in the morning. Odin said as everyone left the great hall. As everyone left, Frigg turned to her husband who was stroking his beard in a thinking manner. What do you think, Odin, what should we do? You know that the other part of Elsha's souls is in the hands of Slavs. And that they won't give that weapon until the young Securitate proves himself to them. Frigga said to him, breaking his thoughts. Yes, my love, I know that very well, and I have to agree with you that the young Securitate will have to do a lot to prove himself, not to Perrin. I doubt that Perrin won't acknowledge the words of his champion, but to other two, especially their god of war. Odin spoke, making Frigg agree with him. Well, we will see what he has to say and offer before we tell him. Frigg spoke. Yes, I agree, but for now, I think we should let this matter set. I will send a messenger to the Slavs to inform them about a possible visitor. But that said, both Odin and Frigg left the hall and went to sleep, thinking of way to test Issei to see if he was worthy of their help in reviving Elsha. Chapter 28. Proving Ground Part 1. It was the morning that will prove to be the one of the most challenging ones so far. With Issei and his gang still in the rooms, provided by the Norse gods sleeping, in the Great Hall of the Norse, Odin with a few other gods, Valkyries and some Asgardians discussed their course of action. So, my children, what do you think about this turn of events? Odin asked in his serious voice, taking this seriously as it should be. Father, I think we should just send them back. The dead should stay dead. The one with long golden hair dressed in golden armor and holding a large hammer, said to Odin. That would normally be the best choice, Thor, but we aren't talking about any mortal. We are talking about the strongest Valkyrie that ever lived, with power and battle prowess even exceeds mine. Not to mention she is also a champion of Lord Perrin, and I don't think that he will be pleased to hear that there was someone willing to revive his champion and we didn't help or at least point the way for them. The Valkyr said. She was the woman in her late 40s with long silver hair and ruby eyes. I agree with Gondal. We aren't talking about someone unimportant, we are talking about Elsha. And the host of Red Dragon Emperor looks strong enough to actually serve as our ally if need be. Also, I'm sure that it's not wise to piss off a dragon, especially a heavenly one. Frigga said as she leaned in her throne seat a bit. How can you be sure that he is strong, mother? I didn't feel that he is that strong. Thor said with a bit of irritation. I'm certain that he is, but how about this, we put him and his companions to a test. Let them fight against some of our stronger members to gauge their strength. If they manage to survive, say 10 minutes in the battle against our warriors, will that be enough for you, Thor, to acknowledge their strength? Frigga told him, making Thor grunt a bit. Fine, Thor said before he was cut off by Gondal. But, to make it fair, the red dragon shouldn't fight a god, that would be an easy victory for any god that fight him. He is only 15-16, and he didn't have time to gather enough experience to fight someone who had millennium of it. Gondal quickly said, trying to at least be fair to the youth. That is reasonable, Gondal. Thor, since you doubt the Securitate strength, I will let you choose his opponent. As for the girls, Gondal, I will let you pick, it's only fair to have you as our current commander of Valkyries to choose. Odin finally spoke, getting a nod from the two. As you wish. Both Thor and Gondal spoke before they departed to seek their fighters for the upcoming test. With the departure of the two, Odin turned his attention to the others present. Now, I wish all of you to behave as normal, I don't want to hear anything or see something that will tarnish our name, is that understood? Loki, that specifically means to you. Odin sternly told everyone, making everyone nod while Loki, the white-haired man in white suit, grumbled a bit before he nodded under Odin's fierce glare. Yes, father. Loki grumbled a bit before walking off somewhere, no doubt to scheme something about Ragnarok. It was noon when Issei and his harem woke up after yesterday's long and grueling march from Skjold to Asgard. As they were escorted by some guards to the Great Hall, they were greeted by a large amount of food and the god waiting for them to have a nice meal before the serious stuff could begin. It's nice for you to finally join us, do take your seats dears, I'm sure you are hungry, we are going to eat first before we get down to business. Frigga said, as she mentioned to them to sit down and start eating, which they did, as some of the gods were already too into eating to notice them, or they simply didn't care. But their stomach filled full by the delicious food provided by their hosts, the real meeting could begin. Now Sekir'Uate, what is that you wanted from us, and what is that you have to tell us? Odin said after the breakfast was over. Yes, Lord Odin, what I want is some information on the whereabouts of the weapon that holds Elsha's soul, and if it is possible for you to give us, or to instruct us where to look. As for the other information, I was asked to tell you this. The Christian pantheon is going to meet at a still unknown location to me in a month or two. I was asked to tell you that Lord Lucifer Surziches would very much like if you would make yourself present for the peace and possibly alliance. From what I could gather from Lord Lucifer, it looks like that the Christian pantheon would very much like to have Norse faction as their allies. This invitation is also for the Slav faction. Issei told respectively. I see, I will tell you my answer in the upcoming days, young one, about the conference. As for the first part, I know where it is, but since I'm not the supreme god of the Slavs, I can't tell you where to go directly as it would insult them, so you would need to go Slavs first before they themselves decide to give you the all clear, and I can only tell you to whom to go first of them, but first you and your escort need to prove to me and the gods of Asgard that you are strong enough to see this mission of yours till the end. Odin said calmly, shocking Issei and his group. Seeing that he didn't have any choice in the matter, Issei just nodded his head as he stepped forward a bit. Fine by me. I don't care if you hurt me till I'm only a breath away from death, but I will not allow for my friends and people I love to get hurt. So, I will only fight. Issei said as his gear appeared and started boosting his power. Well, both Odin and Frigga smiled just a tiny bit as his determination to protect and to go all way was easy to see. Why, you little worm. All of you will fight, don't forget you are in our land and we decide who fights and who not. Thor angrily said as started to make his way towards the young Sekir'Uate. And like I said, I don't care if I die here, I will not allow them to fight. Even if you beat the crap out of me and kick me out, I will only train harder and harder until I can match anyone here. And even if that isn't enough, I will even at the cost of my own life to activate that drive. And I'm sure that everyone here knows what happens when it's activated. Issei said with determination, as he also started to make his way towards the god of thunder and war. They stopped only a meter or two from each other, both angry at the other. It was a miracle that they didn't attack each other. To the girls that were with him, it was a mixed emotions scene. While they were extremely happy that Issei will do anything to protect them, hearing him that he will go into Juggernaut Drive was something that made them panic, as it was a death warrant for him. So, to stop him, Lucy said something that shocked Issei to the core. Fine, if that is the wish of gods of Asgard, then all of us will fight, name your candidates, and we will demolish them. I for one will not stand by and watch my husband and king get ripped apart by battle after battle in my name. Lucy said with fury. Lucy? Issei asked in shock. She is right, Ice, we know that you will go all out without stopping, but we also know that you can go for so long. So, if we have to hurt ourselves to ensure that Elsha is back, so be it. Also, we didn't slack around, we all train also, so we could keep up as much as possible with you. Chelsea said with a smile while Issei looked at them with wide eyes. Fine, but if it is too much for you guys, surrender. Issei said, seeing that he was fighting a losing battle. While all of this was happening, Odin was very impressed at how the young boy was handling the situation. Sure, what he was doing was disrespectful, but at the very same time, it was very honorable. Defending the girls that were very important to him was a good way for him to see his determination, and it was very high, something that was in Odin's book a very big plus. Clearing his through, Odin announced the first matchup of this test of power. Now settle down, all of you. Seeing as the girls decided to go with this test. Sekir'Uate, you can pick anyone to fight from your side except you. For you we have someone special. Now Gondel, did you decided who is going first? Also, there would be no killing in this competition, and your chosen warrior needs to last at least 10 minutes. When the 10 minutes are up, it will mean that they passed. Odin said calmly as he snapped his fingers, transporting everyone to an arena of sorts that looked something like a colosseum. Yes, my lord. Arnett will go first from our side. After that is Asuna, then Ingrid, Theodora and lastly Roswus. Gondel spoke as the girls presented themselves to Issei's group. As soon as they saw the mentioned girls, they could easily tell that they were very strong and beautiful, and Lucy and the girls in Issei's group were a bit surprised that Issei didn't blush or anything similar to saying something impropriety. They could only guess that Issei was so much angry that even the busty Arnett and Roswus didn't make him at least nosebleed a bit. Now who will go first from your side? Odin questioned. I will go first. Cassie said as she stepped forward while putting her two swords on her hands. You sure about that, Cassie? Issei asked with a bit of concern as he saw her march forward to face Arnett. Yes, I am. Think of this as my way of saying thank you for still keeping me around, and this is a good opportunity to show you my power and skill, my future king. Cassie said with a wink and a smile, while Issei was lost for words at what she said. Good luck out there, Cassie, Chelsea yelled as Cassie was making her way to the battle area. Thanks. Was all Cassie said before she turned completely serious. Phew, looks like I get to chop someone's pretty body with my little deer. Lady Gondal, is it alright if I go all out? Arnett questioned while her eyes sparkled with a sadistic gleam in them that only intensified when she saw her captain nod her head. Which caused her to laugh in happiness. We will see who is laughing when I'm finished with you. Cassie seriously said, making Arnett stop her laughter as both girls took their stances and stared each other down. Well, it will only be fair to intro the two. From Norse faction, the first to fight is Arnett Macmillan, and from Securute's team is Cassie Lockhart. Gondal announced. Seeing as both fighters were ready, Odin snapped his fingers, giving the go-ahead for the girls to start. Which as soon as they heard the starting sound, they both rocketed down at each other with their weapons ready for blood. As soon as they were close enough, they attacked with full force, as the weapons hit each other with tremendous force. It created earth shakes and a gust of wind. Seeing that their first strike wasn't enough to break their opponent's defense, both girls separated from each other for a bit. That was a good attack. Tell me, were you an exorcist before coming here as a devil? Arnett asked as she started spinning her scythe in front of her for a bit before lowering her upper body a bit with her weapon being behind her. Yes, I was. That devil saved me in more ways than one after I was excommunicated. So, I owe him a lot, and if it means fighting for him, I will gladly do it. Cassie answered as she buckled her legs a bit, lowering herself so that she could utilize her greatest weapon, her speed, with her blades in front of her in a boxer stance. Well, that is interesting. But now is chopping your limbs time. Get ready, time for me to go full force. Hope you can keep up. Arnett said as she grinned sadistically, rocketing at Cassie with much more speed than before, surprising the greenette a bit. But the element of surprise, Arnett managed to get close hit on Cassie, who barely managed to dodge a strike to her stomach. However, she was cut in the arm, making her scream a bit, though before Arnett could capitalize on her success, Cassie spun around with her blades extended, making the red-haired girl quickly back away. Damn it, she is fast, I need to go all out to beat her. Cassie thought as she charged at Arnett, who took a defensive position while dodging and parrying the strikes from ex-exorcist. Looks like someone is finally deciding to stop this little shenanigan. Fine by me. Arnett thought as she blocked another strike from Cassie, before quickly sending a strong kick to the latter's stomach, sending her back a bit and forcing her to kneel a bit from the impact. So, you finally ready to go all out? Arnett casually asked as she slowly started to walk towards kneeling Cassie. Oh, yes. Time to end this little warm-up. Hope you are now ready for real speed. Cassie said as she stood up and took her stance again, which was followed by Arnett. Fine by me, come. With those words, Cassie again charged at Arnett. But this time, instead of attacking head-on, she started using attacks and the tricks that she picked up from her time as an exorcist. As the clash of steel was heard continuously, it was clear to everyone present that it was only a matter of time before one of those two weapons-wielding speedsters would manage to get the hit on the other, and as the attacks went and blow for blow, and dealing as much damage to other as possible was the name of the game. It was a very interesting battle to the gods of the north, and they were pleased with how the mere mortal could hold the candle to one of the elite Valkyries they have. And it intrigued them to see how powerful other members of Red Dragon were. While the North gods were enjoying the battle of speed, the same couldn't be said for Issei, who was barely containing himself to enter his armor and charge at Arnett to stop this fight. Both girls had their battle gears in taters with a lot of scars on their bodies, with blood leaking a bit. But he was stopped by Lucy, who was beside him, and as she took his hand and squeezed it hard to calm him down. Turning his head so that he could look at her, Issei also saw that she wanted nothing more than to power up and charge in, but she was somehow stopping herself from doing it. Deciding to turn around to see others in his party that came here, he saw that Chelsea was looking at the battle with a bit of awe and dread mixed in it as she saw Cassie taking a quick slash across her torso, with her getting a hit on Arnett's left arm. Murayama and Caddis, to Issei's surprise, was surprisingly calm, as if they saw this kind of battle every day. Well, now that he thought about it, they were captains of Kendo Club, so sword battles were where they mostly fought, so it was only natural for those two to be calm about it somewhat. Though they were at awe at the pure speed that the two possessed. As the battle of speed was still underway, they could clearly see that despite Arnett being more powerful in terms of raw power, her opponent was more of a technique type of the fighter with a speed to easily match her. As the timer was coming closer and closer to a 10-min mark, Arnett decided to finish this with a big bang, as it was her style of doing things. Separating from her opponent, the red-haired Valkyrie took a few deep breaths to get her breathing under control. She honestly didn't expect someone to match her speed and to be so much opposite to her. It was actually fun to fight the green-haired girl. But now was time to finish this fight. You're really good. I didn't have this much fun in a while, but sadly all good things must come to an end. Arnett spoke with an exhausted tone as she lifted her right hand and pointed it towards Cassie, who was also exhausted from the intensive battle she had. Same goes for you. And I couldn't agree more, time to finish this. Oh, I will finish this off. I usually don't like doing this, but you are too troublesome. Arnett responded as a few magic circulars appeared around her with all of them shining different colors. I was wondering when you were going to attack me with magic, looks like I finally got my answer, Cassie said as she again took a stance getting ready for anything. Oh, I honestly don't like magic that much, but if it ensures my victory then I will use it, and with our current state, this battle is mine. Arnett confidently said as she let loose her magic attacks that were elemental. Seeing the attacks coming, Cassie quickly jumped to the side, but as she did that, she realized how foolish that was as Arnett was on her the moment she moved from her spot. Oh, luckily for her at the moment that Arnett's weapon was a centimeter from her neck, while her quick reflexes made sure that she would also give a fatal wound to Arnett in the process, but the time ran out before all of that could happen, thus stopping the fight and the fighters. Seeing that the battle was a draw, Auden couldn't help but clap at the splendid fight he witnessed. It was truly glorious to watch it, and of course seeing glorious bodies was a big bonus in his book, though that he needed to keep in himself as his wife was only half a meter away from him and could easily kick his ass, which he wanted to avoid at all cost. Very nicely done, young ladies, the battle was very nicely fought. Arnett, you were as always very much bloodthirsty, that much is clear, and I see that you finally used your magic, looks like your opponent was very much capable. You, young lady Cassie, was truly a good matchup to Arnett, looks like the Red Emperor got a very nice addition to his peerage. This battle is a victory for Cassie Lockhart by 10 minutes regulation, but in essence, it could be very much said it was a true tie, who knows what would happen if you two continued to battle. Gondal said as she walked onto the field only to find both girls laying on the ground heavily exhausted, which she found amusing. What are you talking about, my lady? Arnett asked as she was still on the ground with Cassie utterly exhausted. It is simple, Arnett, had the battle continued both of you would killed each other. Gondal answered, shocking the Issei and his group, while Arnett was lost for words. Yes, Arnett, Cassie may be dead by your struck to her neck, but you would be stabbed through the heart, and both of your final attacks were well quite, literally, final. Gondal explained before a magic circular appeared under the two exhausted girls healing their injuries. But the healing done, Gondal turned to Asuna and mentioned to her to help Arnett, which she did, while Murayama and Chelsea helped Cassie up to her feet and towards the other three waiting for them. As soon as the girls were near Issei and the other two girls, Cadis and Lucy inspected her for any more injuries that might slip by the veteran Valkyr, and after a whole minute or so of inspecting, Lucy brought Cassie into a tight hug. Idiot, you don't know how worried we were. Lucy lightly scolded Cassie, who just giggled a bit. Sorry, I was having too much fun fighting Arnett, she is like my white dragon opponent, hahaha. Cassie jokingly said, making Lucy sigh while the other girls giggle a bit. Well, that aside, at least you are alright now, cause, also don't try to go suicidal if you can help it, okay? Also, we will talk about what you said after this is over. Issei said as he hugged Cassie, who blushed deeply from the affection he gave her, but she gladly returned the hug while putting her head softly on his shoulder. I will try, and yes we will, I feel ready to tell you all. Cassie said as she got a nod from everyone. While the first battle was underway, deep in the mountains of Asgard, a lone warrior was making his way towards the city dressed in heavy armor with bearskin over him like robe, while having a huge shield and sword strap on his back. As the man looked towards the mighty city, he couldn't help but have a cold, bloodthirsty smile that would send shivers down even the mightiest of God's spines. He was after all called to come to the capital of the Norse to fight a legendary Red Dragon Emperor. That was something that the man couldn't but not answer. It was so long since he fought against someone that hold the power of heavenly dragons, and he could never forget the delight he felt as he fought them. They were much to his liking, strong, independent, brave, but what he loved about them was their brutality, and in some that he fought pure barbarity that only excited him and made him want more. As the man walked forward, he couldn't be happier that he got this call from Thor, and he needed to thank the god of war for this when he see his soon. But the first battle over and a bit of break, it was time for the next matchup to come forward, and like the last time, it was up to Gondal to announce who will come from the Norse, while Issei would do it for his team. For the second battle from the Norse faction, it's Asuna Yuuki. Gondal said as Asuna stepped up to the field with her rapier at the ready. Then I will go, my name is Murayama Yamazaki. Murayama said as she stepped forward. Let's have a fair fight, Murayama Yamazaki. Asuna said sincerely as she took her position. Yes, let's, Asuna Yuuki. Murayama said as she lifted her arm a bit, creating a tear in the air as a sword that looked like a katana with a blood-red outline and black hand grip come out of it, which she gripped in her hand before taking her stance also. Seeing as the two next fighters were ready, Odin again gave the signal for the battle to start, and with two mighty battle cries, the two girls launched at each other. Chapter 29. Proving Ground Part 2. As the girls took their position, Asuna couldn't help but wonder where her opponent got that sword. That was a very beautiful masterpiece. Before we begin, I would like to ask you a question, if that is alright with you. Asuna spoke, making Murayama nod her head. Where did you got that beautiful blade? I can tell that it is also very powerful. Yeah, well, how I got Phantom Chaos is a bit of a long explanation, as there is a side story to it. Though I will tell you after the fight if that is all good with you. Murayama told, making Asuna pout a bit before she nodded and awaited the signal. Seeing as the combatants were ready, Odin was about to snap his fingers again to start the battle, but before he could do that, Cadis intervened. Lord Odin, if it's alright with you, would you allow me and my opponent to also enter this battle? It would be a much better combat than fighting all battle one-on-one, plus it will show our teamwork also. Cadis respectably said, making Odin scratch his beard a bit before nodded his head in affirmative. Well spoken, child, I will allow this. Gondal, who was going to face this girl? Odin asked, prompting Gondal to respond instantly. Ingrid, my lord, she was chosen as next fighter for our side. My see, well Ingrid, are you up for a challenge? Odin asked his Valkyr, who was like Arnett. A red-haired girl with a supermodel body and large breast, she was also in her Valkyr armor, though unlike Arnett's that showed a lot more skin, Ingrid's was more along the lines of Asuna's, as she also had a body shirt on her that covered her a bit more. Though even with that, Issei could perfectly see her curves that were very impressive. Yes, my lord. Ingrid answered as she took wear blades that were similar to Cassie's. Well, Cadis did the same trick to Murayama did and brought her own sword that was a beautiful saber. The saber looked more like a cavalry blade than an infantry one, with a silver hilt decorated with a diamond at the end, while the blade itself was bright orange, with a blood-red stripes going through the middle and the edges of it. As soon as Issei saw Cadis's blade, he felt a chill going down his spine by the side of it, turning to his future wife with a raised eyebrow, which in turn got her to giggle a bit before answering him his unspoken question. For the trick that both pulled was something that Graphia showed them, and it's a really easy thing to do, love. As for the blades, well, Phantom Chaos was a gift that Murayama got from Surzich's knight when we were in the underworld. As for Cadis's blade, it's actually her family heirloom. I don't know how they got their hands on it, but it is a very powerful sword, and the one that has dragon slaying ability, which for you, love, is a very bad thing. Lucy told him, making Issei slowly nod his head and mentally told himself not to piss off Cadis, as that blade could easily chop him to pieces. Oh okay, though what is the name of that blade? He asked, and before Lucy could tell him, Cadis beat her to it. This little beauty is called Starbreaker, and ever since I was little, I wanted to use it, and thanks to Lucy and Graphia's training, I'm finally able to take this bad boy for a spin. Cadis said as she slashed a few times, getting a good feel for it before entering her battle stance with Murayama. Interesting, two very interesting legendary weapons in the hands of human girls. Odin said while stroking his beard calmly, while some gods of Norse were in disbelief that two lowly girls could hold such weapons of mass destruction. Father, we should confiscate those weapons now. If they get into the wrong hands, all hell would break loose. Thor quickly said. I agree with him, father, and you know how much I hate to admit it, but Thor is right. We can't let those two swords be in the hands of weak humans. Another voice spoke that was from a well-built man with like Thor golden hair and bare. Fighter, Thor, as much as it is dangerous to leave those two blades at the hands of humans, it is also their possessions. And even if we did take those two weapons from them, they will return to their masters regardless, so it's pointless, my sons. Odin explained, making both Thor and Vidar growl a bit. But that bit of discussion over, Odin finally snapped his fingers, marking the start of the 2 versus 2 battle. Ingrid and her comrade Asuna began to make their move towards their opponents, and they didn't even dare move, ready to deflect their moves. Swords began to clash each other, which is echoed all around the battle arena. Issei and his harem were watching closely, fearing for the safety of the kendo duo, waiting to make a move if death was inevitable, whilst the Norse gods watched casually, though Vidar and Thor had their arms crossed with disbelief. If these two schoolgirls as so much as use their swords abilities on our two, Thor said, immensely wanting to show off his abilities, but only when it was deemed necessary. Vidar, however, decided to take a slightly different approach. Thor, I understand your concern, but if they do use its abilities, and we actually see what they are capable of, we could use it against them. Enough of this, Odin ordered. I will not allow you two to interrupt the proceedings. The purpose of these battles is to see if they are worthy of their strength to face the Slavic gods and revive Elsha. This was your idea, right, Thor? Odin explained, though with a slight smirk that immediately infuriated Thor. Thor growled and turned away from Odin and resumed watching the fight. Issei even began notice that Thor wasn't particularly happy with the arrangement now, even to the point where Thor might have regretted the idea of putting the visitors to the tests of strength. As the fight slowly progresses, Cadis and Murayama began to up their strength slight and began to parry and counter any attack possible from their Norse opponents. And it seemed to have worked so far, but that was until Asuna noticed a slight flaw that would put the kendo duo in a disadvantage. Asuna nodded her head at the direction of the flaw to Ingrid and began their counter with some power and might that it forced Murayama and Cadis to be pushed back into some distance, causing them to stagger for a quick moment before regaining their strength to continue. Issei was slightly shocked and very much concerned. With such power displayed by Arnett from the earlier match, he's now incredibly worried that the kendo duo might not match up to Asuna and Ingrid's strength and agility. Lucy, worryingly, can't see the shock and worry on Issei's face. She can even see Issei having that urge to step in and end the fight, even more desperate than the previous match, but she had to stop his urge and calm him down. Issei, my love, I know you are worried, I know you want to stop this, but we've agreed to this and we need to be strong for them, and besides they might pull through this and actually survive this. She even began to hold his hand and held it firmly, wanting to channel that hope she has to Issei, which to a certain degree worked. I know it's just they are doing this because of me. If they are killed in battle, it would be my fault, but if you think they'll survive then they'll survive, Issei said, slowly forming a smile and lovingly kissed Lucy's cheek. Soon, the kendo duo began to attack, this time it was more coordinated, which did catch Asuna and Ingrid off guard for a bit as well as pushing them back. But after their advance, they were at a standoff as their swords clashed and each put pressure against each other, wanting to overpower their respective opponents. This however gave Murayama the perfect chance to use one of Sword's abilities. She slightly smirked and began to close her eyes, channeling some strength before whispering the two words, mind corruption, before and pushing on her advance and pushed the two Valkyrs back. Issei's group cheered and supported the kendo duo, whilst the gods watched with disbelief. Even Issei couldn't contain his happiness and shouted his support, "That's it girls, keep it up." Asuna got up and began to growl with anger, angry that they were overpowered by the likes of two schoolgirls. Ingrid however remained calm and stood beside her. Asuna remained calm and focus, we haven't lost yet. They nodded and began to advance forward once more, though while Cadis launched forward, Murayama smirked and watched carefully at one of her unsuspecting victims. Soon Cadis clashed with Asuna, but were surprised to see their battling partners not by their side, nonetheless they're focusing on their own battles. Ingrid, however, isn't faring well. She tried to stand and move forward towards Murayama, but ending up dropping her sword along with her posture and placed both her hands on her head. It seems her mind was corrupted and was struggling alone. No WH. What is this, she asked herself, wanting to know why and how this has happened. Murayama chuckled with a dark tone and slowly moved forward. This even prompted Issei's harem and the gods to watch carefully. Even Thor began to clench his fist and growled loudly, what has she done to Ingrid? It must be that damned sword of hers, father, end this now. Odin diverted his attention to Thor, though with a stern look in his face. Keep out of this, Ingrid needs to prove herself and fight this curse alone. If you so much as undermine the situation, you will not be hearing the end of it. Thor couldn't contain his anger any longer, even swiftly armed himself and made an attempt to interfere. But that amounted to nothing as Arnett stood in front and pointed her scythe in front of him. Thor, don't make me do this, stay back. Thor narrowed his eyes at Arnett as well as his father and his fellow comrades, all before he sighed in defeat, but made a promise to the gods watching. So be it, but if that girl ends Ingrid's life, her life ends as well. As the internal conflict was de-escalating, Murayama chuckles as she slowly circles Ingrid, enjoying the sight of Ingrid on her knees, struggling and weak. Not so tough now, it's a shame really. I was looking forward to seeing you go all out. Issei and his harem were watching with shock and awe, amazed and sacred at the sight of Murayama. Whispers of worry and concern were circling amongst themselves, wondering how and when did Murayama have her dark side, and did Cadis know about it. Soon, Murayama raised her sword, all her power built up and ready to unleash her strongest attack, but the build-up was brought to an abrupt end as Cadis was sent flying, colliding with Murayama and knocked her to the ground. Asuna took the opportunity to snap Ingrid out of the state, running to her and placed her hands on her cheeks and gave her some encouragement needed. Ingrid, you need to snap out of this, you can't let that schoolgirl defeat you, we need to do this for Odin, we need to do this for ourselves and our pride. Ingrid showed signs of fighting off Murayama's curse, her grunts and growls made sure of it, but small whimpers were heard as well of submission. I am trying hard, but it's Asuna continues to encourage Ingrid the best way she can. That's it, come on Ingrid. Cadis and Murayama got up, this time with smirks on their faces, knowing that they can fully take advantage of the situation. With that, they've grasped their blades firmly and tightly, charging up their swords, and made their charge towards the two Valkyr. Asuna watched on, and for that moment life was hanging in the balance, she knew she couldn't fight alone. If they have a chance of fighting back, even win the fight, she needs to quickly snap Ingrid out and fast. Asuna faced Ingrid, placed her hands on her shoulders, and begged her to come back. Ingrid, this could be it, we could die. Snap out of it, they're coming. Ingrid. The end was almost certain for the Valkyrs, the Kendo duo were close and ready to make their brutal strike. However, Ingrid saw the danger, suddenly snapped out of her degrading state, and swiftly swung her blade and blocked the duo with all her physical strength. Asuna gasped and rolled back, incredibly surprised to see Ingrid having that strength to fight back. Ingrid. The onlookers were amazed and surprised, seeing that Ingrid has actually snapped out of that state and continued on fighting, even risking her own body and weapon to defend Asuna. Thor even showed a small grin, pleased to see Ingrid showing more strength she has than Murayama at that moment. Ingrid looked at Asuna and nodded at her, wanting her to fight alongside her again, wanting her to know that they will not cower or back down, and will fight to the bitter end. With that, Asuna leaped up and began pushing forward with her attacks again, even overwhelming the Kendo duo to the point where they were knocked down to the ground. The Kendo duo's comrades and king were watching on, this time worrying and thinking that Cadis and Murayama might not actually survive this and lose their match, meaning that they will not be able to bring back Elsha. Slowly, Ingrid and Asuna slowly moved forward to the duo, though slightly limping, gripping their swords tightly and ready to deal the final blow to end and win the match. Time even began to slow down for Cadis and Murayama, thinking that death would be inevitable, that surrender might be too late for them, and for Issei to rescue them. Fortunately, time was at their side, as the battle was at its end. Odin's clapping ringing in their ears forced the two Valkyrs to stand down and watch their opponents getting their breath back. Issei and Lucy leaped and ran to the duo and helped them up and retreated them back to their side of the arena. Odin showed a small grin, even stood up and cleared his throat for attention. This is no doubt a fight to remember, and I give credit to the combatants. Ingrid, even though you were on the verge of defeat, you came back and showed your strength to protect Asuna, who helped you recover from your corrupted state. Ingrid showed a small smile and nodded at Odin's direction, proud to be given praise from Odin. Asuna, as soon as you saw your partner at her worst state, you were willing to give yourself to save her and ensure that the battle would go in your favor. Asuna nodded as well. Soon, Odin looked at the Kendo duo, but with a rather warm smile. And there goes me thinking you two wouldn't last 10 minutes against Ingrid and Asuna, but you two have made yourselves worthy warriors. You took opportunities to attack and defend, and always stood up no matter the situation, even willing to use your weapons' abilities to have a greater advantage. The duo nodded weakly, tired and exhausted, but nonetheless proud that they've managed to win the fight by time regulation. Even though you two would have lost if it weren't for time, I am, however, declare this victory to the Securitate team. But that, Issei and the others cheered with jubilance, proud that they've won the match, but by the skin of their teeth. But the fight was not completely over as the next combatants were soon announced. Will the next combatants for the Securitate's team step forward? Gondel said as Theodora stepped forward eagerly awaiting her opponent. Seeing as it was her turn, Chelsea took a deep breath as she started to walk forward, while the girls had a fearful look in their eyes. Seeing this, and knowing Chelsea's strength and weakness, Issei took Chelsea's hand, stopping her in her tracks. As Chelsea turned towards Issei, she saw that he was barely holding his rage and fury at check, deciding that it would be smarter to be quiet than to provoke him even further. Chelsea allowed him go past her, while she stood in place waiting to hear what he had to say or do. Lord Odin, Issei said loudly, getting the All-Father to look at him while stroking his chin. Yes, young Securitate. If I can say something? Issei asked, which prompted a nod in response, giving him the go-ahead. Chelsea isn't a fighter in a typical manner, she is more a spy assassin type, so this fight that she and your chosen warrior will fight would be over very quickly in her defeat. And I think we already have shown our power to you and the other gods of the Norse. Issei said bluntly, making some Valkyries look at him with raised eyebrows, while Kendo duo and Cassie had wide eyes at what Issei said, not believing in Chelsea's fighting skills. Though while they wanted to protest, they were stopped by a sharp look from Lucy that told them to keep quiet. Is that so? Odin said calmly while stroking his beard. Though while Odin was calm, Thor was fuming at Issei's way of speaking and two victories that his team made against some of the best that they had. She will fig, Thor started to say before he was interrupted by Arnett's scythe to his neck again. Thor. I thought I told you to not interfere in this, or do I have to cut you up for you to see it? Arnett asked in a threatening tone that was clear to the Norse god of war that he was stepping his boundary a bit too much. Even he wasn't that dumb to go on the bad side of one of the strongest Valkyries in Asgard. Especially if that Valkyr was a sadistic battle maniac with a lot of bloodlusts and was considered a prodigy among weapon users, with only Ingrid and Asuna barely managing to even come close to Arnett's battle prowess. Or, I thought I told you to stop this foolish behavior. This was your idea to begin with it. Or do I need to teach you how to behave? Odin said as he turned towards his son, with his lone eye shining with power, making Thor gulp a bit while nodding in fear at what his father might do. With his lecture towards his son done, Odin once again turned towards Issei, who was now even more furious, knowing that Thor was the one that made the girls that he cared for suffer. Clearing his thought, Odin spoke. I see your view, young Sekiruyute. The battle between Chelsea and Theodora will be counted as a victory for Asgard. But that doesn't mean that this contest of power is over. You and Lucifuge will have to fight. I see, and I thank you, Lord Odin. Issei said respectably while turning towards Chelsea, who looked a bit hurt. Chelsea. Issei told her as he hugged her, while she still had a sad look in her eyes, as she could clearly tell that Issei thought of her as the weakest. As they returned towards other girls, Issei let go of Chelsea, who was instantly hugged by Cassie, while Murayama and Cadis weakly got to her and hugged her, also seeing the sad look in her eyes. After a minute or so, Murayama let go of Chelsea and turned to Issei, who was looking at Chelsea with a sad look. Seeing him looking at her with that look made Murayama very angry, which was clear to Lucy, Cadis, and Cassie, who watched as Murayama grabbed Issei by the collar of his shirt and yanked him closer to him. What is wrong with you? Murayama yelled in rage. Nothing is wrong with me, Issei answered her calmly as he focused on her. Nothing, do you realize what you did to her? Murayama again yelled at him, only to be rewarded with the darkest and coldest look she had ever seen on Issei. And if she was honest with herself, she was turning pale and starting to fear for her life. What I did saved her life, Murayama, or do you prefer to let her be slaughtered? Issei asked coldly as he looked at all the girls who shivered by his look. What do you mean by slaughtered? What I mean is that Chelsea is no shape or form ready to fight an open field battle against someone that knows that she is there. If we are talking about a raiding game, where there is a lot of terrain and places to hide and ambush strike, then yes, I would let her fight. In this scenario, she would be slaughtered by the opponent that has a clear advantage over her in power. Issei explained, getting the girls to widen their eyes at his explanation that made perfect sense. But why did you let Cadis and me fight then? Murayama asked, wanting to know his response. He let you two fight because you are more adapted to fighting in close range. And since he knew that you got training from both my sister and me, gave him a bit of reassurance that you were even a bit more prepared to fight than Chelsea. No offense, Chelsea, but with your gear and your way of fighting, Issei made a right decision. Even though it was hard, it was a right one. And it shows that he cares for you. Lucy said as she finally decided to speak, making Murayama and Cadis look at her. While Chelsea looks at Issei with a tear in her eye, but nevertheless she understood why he did what he did. And she was touched by his action. Really? Really? If you haven't got Lucy's and Graphia's training, I would have done the same thing to you too. Issei answered honestly, getting a nod from Murayama, who let go of him. If all the commotion is over, we can start the next fight. Gondal said as Theodora returned to stood by Arnett, Ingrid and Asuna, while Roswis took to the field in her Valkyr armor, all ready to fight. Well, looks like I'm next. Lucy confidently said as she started to move towards her opponent, only to be stopped by Issei. Turning to him, she was about to ask what he wanted, only to get her lips claimed by his. After a few seconds, Issei let go of her and nodded to her, which she returned with a huge smile and a nod of her own. They didn't need word to say what they thought, one look and that kiss said it all. While Cassie and Cadis shouted encouragement towards her, to which she lifted her fist in the air. Lucy took to the battlefield ready to fight for Elsha's sake, friends and her love Issei. As Lucy was making her way towards her opponent, she couldn't help but think about how her life changed so much after Issei has entered it. Only until recently she was in complete disregard towards anyone who wasn't Graphia, and even to her she was a bit cold. But on that day that Issei came to her home and fought her, she started to notice all that she missed. It was like a new lease of life for her with him coming. She met many friends, especially the girls that also shared affection towards the man she loved. She could honestly say that those girls were almost like sisters to her, that she would lay her life down if one was in great danger. The time spent with Kendo duo, Chelsea and even Cassie, showed her just how much more there is to life and happiness than just blankly staring into the picture, sitting in one place the whole day like she had been doing. She experienced a lot of different things while in their company, and those moments shared with them and Issei were some of the most precious she ever had. And now it was finally her turn to step up to the plate and showcase just how much power she really was. Better Lucy destroy her, don't show her mercy, the girls shouted with encouragement towards her. Who only smiled towards them and gave them a nod of her head before she turned towards her opponent and turned completely serious. As Lucy stood in front of Roswis, she could easily tell that the silver-haired girl in front of her was very powerful, and from the looks of things maybe their most powerful fighter here, not including gods. But something deep inside of her was telling her that whoever is going to face her love is going to be even stronger than the girl in front of her, and that was something that had her worried. Clearing her head of these thoughts, Lucy got ready for a battle. She was going to be queen of her love's peerage, and she would be damned if she didn't go all out. Now the penultimate battle of this power contest is about to start. From Norse faction, the current bodyguard of Lord Odin, Roswis. And from the Red Dragon Emperor's team, heir to the Lucifuge house, Lucy Lucifuge. Are you two ready? Gondel introduced both girls who nodded their heads at her question. Seeing that the girls were ready, Odin snapped his fingers to commence the battle. And as soon as the sound was heard, both silver-haired beauties unleashed their full power and created many magic circulars. I heard a lot of interesting things about you, heiress of Lucifuge clan. Roswa spoke seriously as she was charging her attack. Oh, I do hope only the good things. Lucy answered in a sweet tone as she also pumped more power into her attack before unleashing it. Well, that depends on what you consider good. Ross was told as she started her attack with volley of fire, which was countered with Lucy's own. A lot of things I consider good, though depends also on your own view. Lucy said as she started moving towards Roswas while continuing to release her magic attacks. I heard that you once held your own against the current leader of devils and even utterly demolish a battalion of high and ultimate class. A great feat, I must confess. Roswa said as she shot her magic at the Lucifuge heiress. Hearing this, some gods of the Norse and Valkyries raised their eyebrows, while Issei's harem looked at Lucy in awe that she single-handedly defeated a battalion and held her own against the current leader of the devils. It was only Issei that started to get pale and nervous, since he knew the devil's civil war topic was a very sour memory to Lucy and the one that would make her even explosive. His worries were proven right, as Lucy's aura exploded in rage at the memory of what caused all of that, shocking a lot of people present. Seeing the power that the silver-haired heiress emitted made many gods and Valkyries to be on full alert, while Arnett gained her trademark battle bloodlust smirk that made her fellow Valkyries even more scared. They didn't know what was worst in that moment, the devil facing off Roswas or their own comrade. Seeing her opponent going into a berserk state made Roswas a bit scared. She got good info about almost everyone on the Security's team and knew a lot about them. But she also knew that she would most likely fight the silver-haired beauty, so she came up with this idea to try to throw off her game and make easy to defeat, but from the looks of things it looked like it backfired as Lucy was now deadly serious with a deadly aura around her and a lot of killing intent directed towards her. Compassing herself quickly, Roswas opened her arms wide open. All the while, Lucy was now slowly walking towards her. Let's test your power, shall we? You look like you pack a lot of power, hope you survive this. If you don't, well, that would make you look weak and a disgrace to the Security you hold so high. Roswas taunted a bit, making Lucy's aura become denser as she started to compose it around her as a shield. Oh boy, that Valkyr just signed her death warrant, Issei thought as he summoned his booster gear ready to intervene if necessary. Partner. Looks like we will have to enter the battle sooner than I thought. Drake spoke for the first time since they arrived in Asgard, getting a nod from Issei. Well, it was knowing that Valkyr. Oh well. Ouch, Belzard said with sarcasm, which earned him a smack to the head from Elsha. Ice, be on alert, if Lucy starts to go overboard, stop her. Elsha spoke seriously. Right. I hope for your own good, foolish little Valkyr, that attack that you are about to unleash is powerful enough to damage me, if not, your death is signed. Lucy spoke in a demonic voice, scaring Issei harem, while Thor started to lose his cool again. He was starting to get angry at the disrespectful unwanted quests and was already in his armor. As soon as those words were said, more than 50 Norse magic circulars appeared behind Roswas, brimming with power. And a second later, a maelstrom of magic energy was shoot towards Lucy with incredible power. The power of the attack would kill an ultimate class devil on the spot, though Lucy had other ideas about it. As the attack was about to hit her, Lucy whispered a few words barely heard by anyone, but to those with enhancing hearing, it was easy to hear them. Crystal Cloak. The devastating attack hit Lucy head on and made a huge explosion, while the smoke covered the site where Lucy stood. The explosion and the smoke made it hard for anyone to see if Lucy was still standing, and that terrified Issei's girls as they shouted her name, in hopes that she is alright. All the while, they hold breath dreadfully, waiting to see if the girl they come to love as their own sister was alive. As the smoke slowly started to fade away, everyone was in awe at what they saw. Lucy was still standing high and mighty, with a dense ice-clear shield all around her shining brightly in the sun, though what made them even more in awe was that the shield was unscratched. The sight of her walking out of that blast prompted cheers from Issei's side. Cassie and Chelsea were hugging each other tightly, while Murayama and Caddis were yelling more support to the powerful woman. Issei on the other hand was so-so. He was incredibly happy that Lucy stopped that attack easily, but was scared at what would she now do to the Valkyr that made her pissed. So, you survived that. Roswas talked until she was forcefully stopped by a punch in the guts, courtesy of Lucy, who was starting to unleash punches and kicks to the now helplessly defending Valkyr. The purchase brutality of Lucy's assault was so fierce that Roswas was forced to withdraw, as she couldn't take much more punishment from the pissed-off heiress. Quickly putting some distance away from her, Roswas managed to regain some of her breathing, as she looked up towards her opponent just in time to dodge an ice spear that was aimed at her head. Pathetic. Is this the all you got, little Valkyr? If so, I should do Lord Odin a favor and kill you this instant. That way, he may get someone stronger to be his bodyguard. Lucy told her in a dark tone with an equally dark chuckle as she slowly walked toward the damaged Valkyr, who was now fuming at the insult. "Why you eat this?" Roswus yelled as she again sends her barrage of spells at Lucy. While some Norse gods were surprised, some delighted to see just how much power the girls possessed, some were angry with the battle so far, and Thor was a prime example. He was absolutely livid, seeing that yet again their elite were cornered and almost at the mercy of the Securities team. He was yet again ready to enter the fight, but one deadly look from the Valkyries who battled against the girls made his growl as he couldn't do anything yet. Though his growl soon turned to a deadly smirk as he sensed that his trump card was finally at Asgard. "Father?" Thor said, making Odin turn his head from the enjoyable fight to look at his son. "Yes, Thor. The challenger for the Securities arrived. If you don't mind, I would like to collect him." Thor answered, getting Odin to raise his eyebrow at him before he sensed who came to his city, and as soon as he saw, he was furious at his son. "You called him to come and fight?" That barbarian, Odin roared in fury, scaring everyone present and stopping Lucy's and Roswus's duel just before Lucy's fist was to hit Roswus in the guts. Seeing the almighty father furious was something that was like being at death's door, and Thor was sure that his father would kill him if he didn't do anything to help his case. "Father, if I remembered correctly, you told Gondel to pick the opponents for the girls. Well, I'm to pick for the red dragon, so I did picked, and it's fair, since he isn't the good of the Norse." Thor pointed out, getting Odin to growl at his son before his wife put a hand on his shoulder, calming him. "Well, I agree with you, Odin, about him. Thor is correct, you gave him all rights to call anyone he wanted." Frigga softly told him, making him growl again before calming down. "Thor, you better hope that we don't have any incident or your head will be on a plate." "Understood," Odin said calmly, too calmly, making it very clear to his idiot of a son that if something goes wrong, he would be dead in an instant. "Why, yes, father. I will go to collect him," Thor said quickly, and even quicker left, not wanting to see the wrath of the Norse All-Father. Seeing her chance to use the commotion that Thor made, Roswus punched Lucy in the head, sending her flying a bit, just enough for damaged Valkyr to take a breather and prepare a counter-offensive. "That was a cheap shoot, Valkyr. I thought you had a bit more honor in you," Lucy told Roswus as she regained herself. "That may be so, but in battle, you don't let your guard down." "I thought you knew that," Roswus retorted back. "True, though now don't worry, I will not let that happen again," Lucy yelled while she charged forward at Roswus, who started to shoot her Norse magic at Lucy, who was forced to dodge and evade. He was a man that looked like he was in his late 30 years, with dark brown hair, jet black eyes that would be sent shivers down anyone's back. His face was decorated with all kinds of battle scars, no doubt from all the strong opponents he went against, which only made his already dreadful look now demonic. "It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Lord Thor, and I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to fight against Red Dragon again. I hope that he is up to my liking." Wulfric spoke with cold and bloodlust tone that was very eager to get a good fight while he bowed to the god of war. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day.